Commissioners, meeting to order and conduct roll call. Commissioner Andrades,
Present.
Commissioner Field. I'll remind all commissioners to speak into the mic, please. Commissioner Fuentes. Commissioner Lewis. Commissioner Mack. Commissioner Mack is here. Second Vice Chair Murray is absent. Vice Chair Sanchez.
Here.
Commissioner Schladiger.
Here, and I believe you have to press the button to make the mic work.
Commissioner Stein.
Here.
Commissioner Thomas.
Here.
Commissioner Yap.
Here.
Chair Mesa is here. All right, we have a quorum. We now, I would like to invite up for some welcoming remarks the president of the Public Works Commission, Steve King. I would also like to recognize the members of the commission that are present with us today, and thank you for allowing us into your home.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Good afternoon, commissioners. It's good to see you. My name is Steve King, and I'm honored to serve as the president of the Board of Public Works here at the City of Los Angeles. On behalf of our entire board who are present today, we are excited to welcome and address you today. The Board of Public Works is committed to working collaboratively with the commission here throughout this process. We recognize that strong infrastructure, governance, and effective project delivery are critical to our city's future. And the Charter Reform Commission offers an important opportunity to streamline many of our processes and build more accountable systems for infrastructure investment. Our board is committed to transparency and partnership, and we look forward to supporting your work in every way we can. Thank you very much.
We now move on to multiple items of public comment. Speakers will have 1 minute for each item to speak and 1 minute for general public comment, a maximum of 3 minutes. Spanish interpretation is available, and I'll ask our interpreter to come and speak on that, please.
Hi, I'm Leticia Johnson, Spanish interpreter. Estamos aquí para servirles. Si necesitan interpretación en español, nada más avísenos, por favor.
Thank you. I'll let our executive director facilitate public comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll call out a few names at a time. At the end of the list, if you have not signed up, we'll take last few people then. So first coming up is going to be Lionel, Michael, and then Scott. Please line up. Lionel, Michael, and Scott. Lionel first. Go ahead, Lionel. How many minutes would you like?
The maximum, Executive Director.
And go.
Okay, Lionel Mara speaking as an individual regarding planning and infrastructure. I'm a bicyclist. I think that the City Charter Commission should look into improving transit safety, bicycle safety, pedestrian safety in our city of Los Angeles, because there's a real issue with the infrastructure, especially for pedestrians who are getting hurt, killed by speeding motorists, traffic violence. Bicyclists are also in danger. So we need to expand bicycle infrastructure, protect the bike lanes at all council districts, not just a few, but all of them, because, some council districts do a good job somewhat. Others, they just don't do anything at all or not sufficient. So I think that we need to improve safety and infrastructure. And also parks, recs and parks as well. And I like the idea of reforming the police commission. I like the idea that was proposed by Fair Rep LA. I think that we need more oversight over the police department and the commission and how they're appointed, because there's been many news articles about misconduct and abuse of power. So that's something that this Charter Commission should look really into. Thank you for your time.
Michael, and then after Scott is going to be Bill.
General public comment and committees.
3 minutes?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, you might give me 3, but.
Go.
Okay, so Michael Feinstein, former Santa Monica mayor. I've been coming time and time again, arguing for multi-seat districts by proportional ranked choice voting. Today, I want to connect it to the recent story in the news, Texas, California, the controversy over single seat districts, and the fact that you can just draw lines however to pick winners and losers. And that's one of the problems with single seat winner take all districts and why they're outdated and why you guys are here in part because of the Fed tapes was fighting over who wins and who loses of single seat districts and the corruption that comes from concentrating power in city council districts with just one person being the person there. Those are the 2 pillars why you're here. And the Independent Redistricting Commission by itself isn't enough. It's necessary, but not sufficient because there's still going to be winners and losers depending on how you draw the lines. There's so much diversity in LA. Multi-seat districts can have that diversity within a district, and it can be both political viewpoints. It can be voting rights protected groups. The Black versus Brown demographic change in south of LA didn't have to be a fight over one district and how you draw the lines to be fair with populations migrating over time. It could have been different groups all having a seat at the table. Also, like, what if you're a resident in a district with 3 council members? What if you're for the arts or for housing or for parks? You're going to have different champions on different issues. So it isn't just left and right types of issues that you would have better representation. Also, in terms of class, there's no voting rights protected group that is a monolith. There's still all sorts of issues within each one of them, and you want to have more diverse representation. So the point of all this is when you have your elections committee that you set up, hopefully today when that motion passes, please make sure that that agenda doesn't just consider council enlargement, but how you enlarge it, including looking at multi-seat districts with PRSDB. Thanks.
Thank you very much. So it's Scott, then Bill, then Aaron.
Thank you. 2 minutes probably, sufficient enough for me. Hey, good afternoon. And also, I wanted to thank you for the opportunity to speak before you. I wanted to talk about that, council redistrict. As a Korean American myself, the Korean American community has contributed to the city of Los Angeles for decades in a very positive way. But however, for decades and decades, Koreatown was divided into 3 to 4 different council districts, always has been. So many people asked me to go to the meeting today and just, express our concerns that we need Koreatown in 1 council district. I think that's the fair, and also I think that's the right thing to do. So as a Korean American myself again, I would like to urge our commissioners to look into putting Koreatown as into 1 council district. Thank you.
Thank you. Then it's Bill, then Aaron, and then Bruce. You're Bill?
Thank you very much.
How long do you want?
Huh?
1, 2, or 3 minutes?
What was that?
How many minutes?
2 minutes.
2 minutes.
Thank you very much.
And go.
Esteemed members, my name is Bill Robinson. I used to work for Nate Holden a long time ago, and I never left Wilson Koreatown neighborhood because I speak several languages. One of the things why Nate hired me was because I could speak fluent Korean. 안녕하세요. I just want to advocate for reform within the city government. I have particularly concern about planning department not being friendly, small business friendly. I had a situation whereby we had a restaurant that's going out of business in this historical Chapman Market. After 3 years, they could not make back payments on rent. So somebody from out of the country, from Japan, came and they took over the lease, and they wanted to tenant improve it to their specs because they're from Japan. And as you know, with the slowness of permitting process due to the fact that we're giving more priority to affordable housing and the Pacific Palisades. And most restaurants and hotels, when they go through anything like that, it takes more than a year. I'd say about 99%. But by the time they got through with the TI, which took like a year and 3 minutes, 3 months. They were told to do a whole new CUP. And they had a team coming over here for the grand opening. And those people had to go back because they couldn't get the sake license because they were told that you got to do a CUP again. And I just want to say, you know, I had an occasion to go to Monterey Park. There was a deliberation about a restaurant wanting beer and wine, just like in this case. The director of development came down and they asked, is there anything we can do to hurry up the ABC process so you get it established? That's what we need in the city.
Thank you, Aaron, and then Bruce.
Hello, everyone. I'm Arend Castelline. Oh, 2 minutes, please. Hi, everyone. I'm Arend Castelline. I'm a resident of downtown Los Angeles.
Can I ask you all to really speak up? I'm having it may be me, I'm having a very difficult time hearing you.
Is this better?
Yeah.
All right. Hello, I'm Arend Castelline. I'm a resident of downtown Los Angeles, and I'm the chair of the LA chapter for the Equal Vote Coalition, where we advocate for a voting method called star voting. I'm excited to see voting and election reform included as a topic on the agenda for the proposed committees, and I think comparing star and ranked choice voting will be an important keynote decision to be made as it has implications on the other reforms that are being considered. Star voting lets voters provide scores from 0 to 5 for each candidate, as opposed to ranked choice voting where it's first, second, third choice. And I advocate for star voting because after looking into it, I believe that it actually delivers on the vision that gets so many people excited for ranked choice voting. Star voting truly resolves the vote splitting and spoiler effect and makes it safe for voters to provide their full and honest opinion on their ballot without fear of their vote backfiring. We now have many studies showing how RCV is performing in those dimensions, and I'll defer to my written public comment for the August 9th meeting for more information. Star voting is also compatible with all other reforms being considered, whether you opt for single member districts or proportional districts, whether you decide to keep the primary or not. I look forward to future discussion, and I recommend this be included as an important topic for a deep dive. Thank you guys so much for your service.
2 minutes. So I'm Bruce Dixon. I'm a volunteer with the LA chapter of the Equal Vote Coalition. At the August 9th CRC, a commenter claimed ranked choice voting fixes the lesser of two evils problem. Two more names for this problem are vote splitting and the spoiler effect. If a centrist candidate needs only 51% of the vote, more progressive voters will not vote honestly. In 2000, fear prevented many progressives from voting for Ralph Nader because the few who did caused Al Gore to lose to George W. Bush. According to the Campaign Legal Center, not us, RCV claims its ballot solves this problem, allowing voters to express honestly and reduce wasted votes. However, in 2022 in Alaska, the first use of RCV received national coverage. Why? It disproved many of the claims and promises made by RCV advocates. Election results were a classic spoiler effect, where 60% of the majority preference lost. Election science is clear. RCV is closer to the status quo of first past the post of 50% voting. Star voting does two things more effectively. It locates the center of the majority's preference for change and reduces vote splitting more than RCV. Online at equal.vote, find clear, colorful explainers, graphics, and slides. For those interested, I have handouts, and thank you for everything you do.
Thank you very much. I've got Rob, then Josh. We'll take Josh first then?
Yeah.
How long?
Sorry?
1, 2, or 3 minutes?
2 minutes, please. Hi all, my name is Josh Fredivo. I'm here representing Streets for All.
We're very excited about many of the reforms being discussed today. And we think a transparent capital infrastructure plan along with a 2-year budget cycle are very important. But there's 2 reforms that we haven't seen discussed that we also want you guys to consider. The first is that transportation should absorb the duties of street services. Currently, the department responsible for planning our streets and our sidewalks is not the same department that can actually maintain them. The Department of Transportation is responsible for parking, but they can't actually go in and change how our sidewalks and our streets work. And this is a huge bottleneck when it comes to executing projects, executing infrastructure. Our organization spent years working on Measure HLA and getting that passed by the citizens of Los Angeles to try and Band-Aid this problem. ED9 is another kind of Band-Aid for this problem. But at the root of it, it is a charter problem. The Department of Transportation is not a charter agency. And so we think that they should be formalized inside of the charter, and the duties of maintaining and excavating our streets and our sidewalks should be given to the Department of Transportation, consolidating these 2 different, well, department and a bureau. We also don't think we're spending enough on streets. The streets in Los Angeles are falling apart, as you guys know. That's part of why we're here. But we compared the budget of LADOT and BSS to other major cities in the country. We're spending half of what we spend, of what New York spends. We're spending a third of what Seattle and Chicago spends. So we need to find ways to invest reliably these infrastructure dollars. Right now, parks and the library get a dedicated part of our tax dollars. And we think streets, whether it's BSS or LADOT, should also receive dedicated funding. Thank you.
Last, so far, Rob, 1, 2, or 3?
3 minutes, please. Item 1 is on the proposed committee structure, and my comments on this are related to item 2. Sure. I appreciate this commission including a requirement in its bylaws that these committees will follow the regular procedures of the Brown Act. It's important to instill trust in this process and involve the public. Also important that these committees be on the smaller side so they are more nimble. We're able to easily establish a quorum and avoid stretching our commissioners too thin. My main question regarding the committees is regarding how proposed reforms will be assigned to the committees. We have a list of planning and infrastructure reforms in item 2. Committee structure makes it clear that some of those reforms will be heard in other committees like government structure and budget. For others, it's not so clear. I'd suggest for ease of process, we figure out a way to assign designating that power to someone, whether that be the chair of the commission or someone else. Another issue I'd like to highlight is that we need to be cognizant of all of the reforms that the council has asked you to study and make it clear for everybody what is on the plate. Make it very easy to find. Last month, the CLA presented a spreadsheet that listed a number of reforms the council has asked you to study. How and when those items will advance through this process and how they will be assigned to committees is not clear. So I think that's important to consider. I'd also like to note that the CLA spreadsheet was incomplete, omitted 2 motions containing 14 reforms the council pulled from the 2024 ballot and sent to your way. And it also does not include 8 motions that were subsequently introduced by council members. On a more lighthearted note, I hope we ensure that at a minimum, our commissioners are fed at all meetings, regardless of the length of time. Wouldn't want to have anybody hangry and entering debate. And y'all are all unpaid volunteers rushing to these meetings after work. Sometimes it's the least we can do. Lastly, I was a little alarmed to hear at the last meeting that we might not have had everybody receive Brown Act training. If this hasn't happened offline, let's tack it onto the Friday agenda. Let's let everybody get trained. We've had a couple issues with agendas where there are multiple agenda signups and inconsistent utilization of those agenda signups. So I think we need to have a little bit more clarity on how we're following that. Again, concerned to see that there's no materials in this agenda regarding the outreach consultant. Even more concerned to see that this commission is not being allowed to commission. And we might have zero or little to no say on how this $1 million budget is allocated. There was previously a suggestion it would be a bad precedent to open this up to oversight, and I'd argue the opposite. look at how our previous redistricting commissions, our ethics commissions work, or even the 99 appointed commission. I actually got agendas from city archives, and you can see there, they approve their staff, they approve their budget. Thank you.
One last pass. Anyone for last public comment? Going once, twice. Oh, sorry. Go ahead and line up, and then this is it. Yeah, 1 and 2. Yeah. Your name and how long?
Hi, everyone. My name is Nicholas Caputo. I would request 60 seconds, if I could. Hi, everyone. I'm a familiar face here. Pleasure to see you all again. My name is Nicholas Caputo. I'm a Echo Park Neighborhood Council member, formerly the vice chair of that organization. And one of the things of which, when I talk to you frequently, I often talk about council expansions. I see that with the limited time this board has to meet, we have to choose the issues that we tackle wisely with how many birds we can hit with one stone for each individual issue. But besides council expansion, which I'm sure many of you know my stance on that, which is increase, I would also like to take a moment to recognize the Byzantine maze that is getting infrastructure approved and built in the city of Los Angeles, and the number of different points of discretionary overview that something can be just suddenly stopped, or something can have to get another sign off to do so. By simplifying this process, by consolidating this into one department as to 15 different ones, I believe we can get more things built in less time. Thank you.
How long?
Yeah.
How long?
Oh, was it like 1 minute per? I just got here. Thank you so much. Yeah. Godfrey Platter, pronouns he, him, deputy director at LA Forward Institute. Thank you all for serving. You heard from our executive director, David Levitas, a couple of weeks ago around planning and infrastructure. And so wanted to introduce myself, and looking forward to our volunteers meeting you all as well and getting to know you. As it pertains to today's conversation around planning and infrastructure, we saw attachments A and B alongside you all from like the staff reports. Agree, of course, of the continued conversation on streamlining and eliminating corruption from planning approvals. Right now, we know projects currently go through many discretionary approvals, which create the opportunity for quid pro quo corruption. Really want to make sure you all have the opportunity to continue looking at that. We support the conversations around the capital infrastructure program as well, the CIP, and believe that there are places to make sure this is embedded within the charter, because we don't have strong integrated infrastructural coordination yet for the city to ensure equitable infrastructure across the city. And then one thing that did not make attachment B that I'd love to make sure you all continue in conversation is the conversation around the Office of Legislative Counsel. You'll notice that it is an attachment A as record of the last conversations you all had around planning infrastructure. Did not make the synthesis in attachment B, and would love you all to continue that conversation. I think you all have the power to direct that to continue. We believe that there are a number of different ways that the city attorney's current functions can be rethought about, reimagined to more directly support city council to do its work in representing us better. Thank you all so much.
All righty. I think that concludes our public comment.
Great. Thank you, everyone who provided public comment today, and for those of you who are listening who provided public comment in writing to the commission. We're going to move on to our next item on the agenda. We now move to the approval of the minutes from our last meeting. Do I have a motion? All right, motion from Commissioner Fields. Is there a second? I'll second. Is there discussion? All right, seeing no discussion on the approval of the minutes, I will see if there's any objection to approving the minutes. Any objection? All right, seeing none, the minutes are approved. We now move on to neighborhood council comment and community impact statements. Are there any present that have approved community impact statements relevant to today's proceedings? Hi, yes, you will have 3 minutes.
Okay, thank you very much. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Ellen Evans, and I'm here on behalf of the Bel Air Beverly Crest Neighborhood Council, which represents 30,000 constituents. I chair our ad hoc committee on charter reform, which we launched to guide our engagement with this commission. To participate today, we had to call a special meeting of our full board, more than 30 members, because like many neighborhood councils, we typically meet only once a month. Starting this process in the middle of summer and under compressed timelines makes it challenging for most neighborhood councils to engage meaningfully. We submitted a CIS on several topics today. Our comment is on today's topics, infrastructure and land use. First, the state of our infrastructure is unacceptable. We strongly support a capital infrastructure plan that identifies priority projects, includes funding sources, and ensures that maintenance is not deferred. The charter should require planning and budgeting that are forward-looking, coordinated, and transparent. Secondly, we want to address land use. Granting land use decision-making authority to neighborhood councils was contemplated in the last charter reform effort. The commission recognized that people on the ground who are familiar with areas proposed for development are the best suited to understand strengths and weaknesses of every proposal. The power was not granted, but instead APCs, area planning commissions, were created to localize land use decision-making. In practice, due to their structure, they function as extensions of mayoral and council control, and they're not required to have subject matter expertise. Instead, we propose a model where neighborhood councils are empowered to provide early input on discretionary land use decisions, with their findings giving meaningful weight. When deliberative bodies override those recommendations, they should be required to make specific written findings explaining how abiding by the council's decisions would endanger public welfare. We support restoring the Board of Zoning Appeals. You've heard a number of voices calling for elimination of Rule 245E, but we urge you to preserve it. This is one of the only remaining checks on unelected bodies, allowing the city council to correct or review land use decisions. Oh, okay, all right. I skipped a lot in the middle. Okay. So I'm going to go back and just say about area planning commissions, their service as quasi-judicial appellate bodies without any requirement that commissioners understand land use law doesn't make sense. They should be eliminated or fundamentally restructured. The Board of Zoning Appeals would be, again, an impartial, expertise-driven body that could review appeals rather than allowing them to be resolved politically by the council. Okay, so while the concerns about the abuse of the 245 motion are valid, the answer is not to eliminate oversight, but to pair the rule with stronger ethics safeguards. Stripping this tool would silence community pathways for redress without fixing the underlying problem. Land use and infrastructure shape the future of the city. They deserve public processes that are grounded in community experience, not politics. We hope this commission will act boldly in reforming both. Thank you very much.
Okay, seeing no other neighborhood councils, I would just like the public that is watching to know, and those online, that we encourage any neighborhood council that wishes to submit a community impact statement in writing or to come present before us. And Ellen, thank you for submitting yours in writing too, because I've reviewed it. We got everything, but appreciate it. All right, we are going to move on to our next item on the agenda. I'm going to ask our executive director to give a report on outreach and other matters.
Sure, and just really quickly on the neighborhood council impact statements, they do need to submit them online first before they present an official statement. So thank you for the one who did so far, our inaugural presentation. Just a couple brief updates. First, I just want to, before I forget, all commissioners have now been trained, or technically many of them retrained on the Brown Act. They've had the refresher. They all participated in, I want to say there were 4 separate trainings of the Brown Act that all of our commissioners now have participated in. I'm also happy to say that our contract is now signed with City Fabric. We are having a kickoff meeting with them later this week. We'll adjust some of the details in this process since it unfortunately took longer than I hoped, but I still think it worked much faster than an open RFP would have been, thanks to using the already approved bench list from LADOT. Just also want to clarify on the contract, the amount reflects what ideally we'd love to spend if we were able to execute all the outreach events and tasks. City Fabric will invoice us along the way for tasks and events completed. It won't just be one big flat check at the beginning. It's a continual process. And, you know, since we're executing it later, it, you know, might not be, it likely won't be the full amount, but I'd love to get there and just do a whole lot of outreach. That is the plan on that. And that concludes my report. Yep.
Commissioner Field.
Thank you. Just a question about the outreach. And of course, I think we all appreciate that it took longer than you had hoped, or any of us. If they're just starting to kind of get started, what would you say in terms of our upcoming meetings? Which will be the first meeting in which we would expect to be able to start measuring the impact of the outreach?
Well, it's a great question. I'm trying to see if I can pull off them at least coming to give a quick presentation on Friday. I just invited them, so we'll see if I'm able to manage that on short notice, but hopefully they'll be at least able to introduce themselves on Friday. Our next meeting, I want to say, is that first Saturday after Labor Day, I think so. So that will be when, contract will be fully implemented. They'll help us start doing those events, help us publicize those events long beforehand, and have more things planned at that point.
May I do one follow-up? Thank you, Chairman Mesa. Do we have a sense of how many people have been attending versus any metric or goal for how many we would like to be here once we start having this rather expensive outreach project?
So we have been doing our best to track in-person attendance, both by having people sign up as they, or at least let us know that they're here. We, of course, don't mandate that people sign up when they attend, but it at least gives us a snapshot. And in addition, we also get a snapshot on those who are listening to my voice right now on Zoom that lets us know the number. So that's going to be our, beautiful floor. And I hope that we have a lot more starting once we have this outreach firm helping us.
Commissioner Fuentes and then Thomas.
Fuentes.
Okay, so from me, in terms of outreach, when we were talking about the website, the newsletter, as well as the social media account that's been recently launched, are those things that City Fabric will be taking over, or will that be a role of this?
They'll be helping us a lot. I don't know. Taking over might be, I don't want to put it that far out, but they'll be helping us create a lot of content. And, none of us are web designers on the team. So they have, a better eye for that. So we'll see a lot of improvements in the coming weeks over our social media, the website, et cetera. But yes, absolutely.
Awesome. One quick follow-up. In terms of the newsletter sign up that's on the website, was there any update in terms of the numbers there?
I'll have to get back to you on that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Thomas.
I first want to say I am having a very, very difficult time hearing. I couldn't hear half of the presenters, and I just got to be honest and say that I was listening, but I was struggling. And so you've taken the time to come here, and I think we need to hear you. And so I don't know what we can do about that. I mean, I have a preacher voice. I don't need a mic, so I don't know if anybody else does. But I think it's very, very, very important that we hear. I didn't get anything that you said. Nothing. I did not. But you were clear. Yeah. And I think, I think when I'm just saying this, that I think when we're talking about an outreach plan, we have to make sure that when the people come in, that it's efficient and that we understand, and I'm recognizing as someone who has walked up to that podium and spoken over the years, maybe they weren't hearing me. They weren't, but anyway, deliberately they were. But I think it's just very, very, very important that we do that. And so in terms of the numbers, because that's always an issue when you talk about outreach, we need hard numbers. Social media is fine. It's great, but not everybody has social media. And some of the people that will be most invested in this process may not be social media people. And so I think we should work on having a number of people that is consistent with the population of Los Angeles. And so I think we can begin there because we want to make sure that we have good representation. That's it. Much better.
Okay, I think I was focusing too much on the mic.
We will work on the audio and see what options are available. All right, thank you, commissioners. We will move on to item 1, which is a discussion relative to potential infrastructure and planning related charter amendments and possible action regarding related report back requests and related matters. The discussion will start with the presentation from staff that prepared the staff report, after which we will discuss the commission's options to move forward. I'm going to turn it over to our Deputy Director, Max, for the presentation. Yeah, Commissioner Stein, that's item 2. So before we do that, we absolutely will, but we're going to do the report on infrastructure and planning first. Max.
You're good. Turn on. Okay. Good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Max Podemsky. I'm the Deputy Director of the Charter Reform Commission. I'm going to give you an overview of our staff report for the planning and infrastructure issue area and our 5 proposed reforms. So these reforms were selected by reviewing the presentation from our July 30th meeting, as well as other documents, including reports from Central City Association, Investing in Place, and letters that were submitted from departments and put on the Charter Reform Council file. We placed these in a spreadsheet, which is attachment A, and indicated which organization proposed each reform. And as you can see, many of them had multiple organizations proposing a similar reform. We then compiled these into broader categories, which is attachment B, which is our proposed reform issue areas. So now I'm going to provide an overview of the reforms related to infrastructure. The council motion that created this commission cited challenges in the delivery of core city services as one of the reasons the charter needs to be reformed. This includes things like streetlight outages, broken sidewalks, missing curb ramps, and dangerous streets. The charter lays out the organization of city departments, including those in charge of the delivery of public infrastructure. And Los Angeles has a unique structure with over 15 departments having some responsibility over the public right-of-way. And so, for an example, the Department of Transportation is an independent department, while areas like sidewalk repair and street lighting are done by bureaus overseen by a Board of Public Works composed of paid full-time commissioners. Presenters cited this structure as leading to a lack of coordination between the various departments and bureaus, with each having their own system and plans without sufficient interface. Our first proposed reform for the area of infrastructure is realigning departments to better deliver infrastructure. This includes looking at things like empowering the Director of Public Works to oversee departments and bureaus in charge of infrastructure, creating a new capital planning office, clarifying and minimizing overlap between departments and bureaus, and potential changes to the Board of Public Works. Our second proposed reform area for infrastructure is creating a capital infrastructure plan, our CIP. Los Angeles is one of the only cities in California or the nation to lack a capital infrastructure program to plan and fund infrastructure projects. And instead, this occurs during yearly budget cycles and is fractured between various departments and elected officials. Some of the topics the commission must look into related to creating a CIP is the length of each CIP, so 3 years, 5 years, et cetera, what office is responsible for it, how it has changed or amended, and making it independent of the operating budget. The third and final proposed reform area for infrastructure is increasing the budget appropriation for the Department of Recreation and Parks. This topic came from a request from RAP in their letter on the council file. So according to the Trust for Public Land, Los Angeles is one of the most park-poor cities in the nation. And RAP has increasingly used their budget appropriation to pay for indirect costs, which were previously paid for by the city. And in 2011, voters passed a measure to reform the charter to increase the appropriation for the library to pay for indirect costs. So this would be looking and doing something similar for the Recreation and Parks Department. And, you know, one of the main topics related to this is just how much that appropriation should be. So those are the proposed reforms for infrastructure. Now I'm going to move on to the proposed reforms to planning. So abuse of the city's land use process has been at the heart of several scandals that led to the creation of this commission. Currently, many proposed development projects in the city must go through numerous discretionary bodies to get approved. And members of the city council have tremendous power to approve or deny projects, including the unique ability through the charter to assume the authority of the planning commission. And there have been allegations that council members have illegally abused this power. Yet beyond corruption, the approval process has stymied housing development, resulting in a deep affordability crisis in our city. The first proposed reform around planning is to streamline and eliminate corruption from planning approvals. And some sub areas related to this are amending Charter Section 24E, which allows council members to assume the authority of the Area Planning Commission or the City Planning Commission. Giving the Planning Department and City Planning Commission more discretion to approve projects or appeals. Removing Charter Section 104, which restricts floor area ratios across the city. The second proposed reform area to planning is to ensure abundant and equitable housing. And this charter reform area would put language into the charter to ensure that Los Angeles builds a sufficient amount of housing for its residents. In some areas to pursue related to this includes ensuring equitable housing allocation across the city and requiring sufficient zoning capacity for existing and future housing demand. And so in conclusion, your task now is to select which issues you want to pursue and then refine them. So, you know, as you can see, each of these topics is basically a wide lens, and there's lots of leverage in here to sort of pick which reforms you want to do within these topics. And part of this is determining which reforms actually necessitate a change to the charter rather than being left to the discretion of policymakers. So over the coming months, we hope to dig into each of these topics and present different scenarios and issues to the commission that will help you inform your discussion. And we also plan on having you hear additional presentations from experts, community advocates, and city departments, as well as receive feedback through public outreach. We must also work with the Chief Legislative Analyst, the Chief Administrative Officer, and City Attorney's Office to further refine the language for each of these areas to fit the charter. Thank you for allowing me to present to you, and I'm available to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioner Field.
Thank you. I have two questions. One is more process and, well, it doesn't matter. When more details are looked at, whether it's through committees or eventually back in the full commission, I wonder if we're going to be able to ensure that the various experts have various viewpoints, because it has been my impression thus far, for example, and I'm not saying I disagree with this, but regarding housing and planning, we're hearing from people and organizations that favor what we used to call upzoning, which in today's world probably is a very important thing. We're not hearing a whole lot from people who, for example, want to protect a single family neighborhood. So I just want to say we should really be sure we're hearing more than one side on these issues. Related to that, on the planning particularly, I haven't seen anything that references us getting some really very valuable information about how the state is taking over local planning decisions. I mean, we just had the example, the mayor had to ask the governor to exempt the Palisades from SB 9 and its expansion of options for how to build housing. So I think before we reform the planning and all of the related things, we need to get someone here from Sacramento to explain the state's increased authority over what used to be more localized decisions. That's just what I wanted to say. Thank you.
I have a comment on that, and then I think I saw Commissioner Lewis next. Commissioner Field, all those items that you raised, I think the staff are taking notes. I'm taking notes so that we can make sure to identify and recruit presenters who can speak to each of those items. Just for all the commissioners to note, to this point, we have not refused anyone the opportunity to present before the commission. Commissioner Lewis.
Can everyone hear me okay? Okay, good. I appreciate Commissioner Fields' comment. I was thinking the same thing. I mean, not just today, but for the last few meetings, just having more diversity in viewpoints so that we can just hear all sides. I won't say both sides, all sides. So we can be better equipped to make informed decisions and recommendations here. So I would appreciate speakers from, with various perspectives. So I'll just leave it at that. In terms of the recommended reforms you just reviewed, Max, I'm trying to just wrap my brain around it and just simplify it. So there were 3 for infrastructure, 2 for planning. I get that. But there's also in attachment A, all of the reform ideas that came about July 30th. And somehow, I suppose there was a drill down, or this information was synthesized into those 5 that you reviewed with us. What did that process entail? How did we go from all of these to these 5?
So we essentially tried to categorize them into broader topics. So for example, there were a lot of specific recommendations on how to streamline the planning approval process. So for example, eliminating area planning commissions. So we put those sort of under that broader category of streamlining and eliminating corruption from planning approvals. Similarly, a lot of recommendations about putting things in the charter to ensure that we're building enough housing and equitably distributing housing that was put in that category. And then with infrastructure, a lot of ideas about how departments could be reformed, right? Ranging from everything from, creating an office to sort of encourage collaboration to actually merging departments into each other. So what we tried to do here is basically keep the aperture wide, right? Have all the ideas come in and sort of sort them into this broader category. And I think the task now is really drilling down on the ones that we want to pursue. And I think part of that is, getting additional perspectives. We have opened our meetings up to any group that wants to present, but sometimes it's easier for groups to sort of react to things that are on the table rather than come in and present ideas, as we did at our last meeting on planning and infrastructure. And then another, important piece of this is going to be actually working with departments on this language.
Just one other thing really quick. So are you confident, Max, that of all the ideas for reform in attachment A, those are all captured for the most part in attachment B? Are there any of those that you feel like may have been left out or you weren't able to categorize? Or
Yeah, so I should note, so for the most part, we did. There were some topics that we felt were sort of broader than the issue of planning infrastructure. So for example, a commenter brought up an office of legislative counsel. That's actually a topic that we moved into the government structure bucket because we felt like that, office would obviously have broader implications than just on planning. And similarly, other ideas on a 2-year budget process, for example, we sort of are moving those into other sessions just because we thought they would be better to take on as part of those discussions rather than this, which was really focused on planning and infrastructure.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Max.
I wanted to let the public know that the commissioners received a letter from the mayor on the items before us today. That document will be posted to our website during this meeting or shortly after this meeting. I have Commissioners Thomas, Yap, and Stein in the queue. Commissioner Thomas.
I have, since we're talking
Commissioner
about,
Thomas, I apologize. There are also copies of the letter in the back for the public.
oh, thank you. So we're talking about development, and the reason that this is important is because of the potential for corruption. And, you know, I think somebody mentioned, I think it was you, Commissioner Field, about single family housing, you know, and, you know, there's a way in which we are planning to build more housing while at the same time pushing people out of housing. And I think that's a really big issue, you know, and one of the things that it's my understanding, and you correct me if I'm wrong, was that even when there are these developments of these, you know, $10,000 lofts or whatever they are, you know, that are being built all over the city, that there's supposed to be a certain portion of those that are supposed to be reserved for affordable housing. And when I've asked that question, who is responsible for making sure that that happens? We don't know. It doesn't happen. And so I think that while we want to make the development of Los Angeles easier, it needs to be for the people of Los Angeles, not for developers and policymakers and elected officials. And so what I'm interested in is, how do we do that? How do we ensure that when they do a 50-story building, I don't know if that's even a thing, you know, how do we assure that everyday common working people are able to benefit from that? And how do we keep from pushing people out of Los Angeles? And I speak specifically to Black people. Because in the year 2000, there was 1 million of us. There's about 329,000 Black people in the city of Los Angeles right now. And it's because most folks just can't afford it. And so even when we're talking about affordable housing, we know what happens when we talk about affordable housing. Nobody wants it in their backyard. When we talk about sheltering the unhoused, nobody wants it in their backyard. And so it would seem to me that while it is important, vitally important, that we streamline this, we have to also, I think there's a way in which we can be kicking the can down the road. Best intentions in the world. But unless we deal with the real problem, and the real problem, I think, that's happening in the city of Los Angeles is that we are allowing developers to buy people who make decisions about development. We are not holding developers accountable. Now, there are models. There are models where community people, you know, because to me, I want to know, it's good. You know, I work at a university. I can come up with all kinds of wonderful ideas that I think is going to make it a better space. But if the students don't agree, then it's for naught. And so we have a real serious problem with housing in Los Angeles. We have a real serious problem with developers and corruption. And I don't think this gets to it. I'm just, you know, I haven't digested the whole thing because quite honestly, I'm still trying to figure out how this is going. I'm asking, do you get it? You know, it's kind of complicated in terms of the way that it's structured for me. But I want to make sure that we keep the main thing. And that is, how do we stop flight from Los Angeles because developers are able to make good money. What is not mentioned, and maybe it is, but the fact that developers are buying single-family homes. The fact that the price of real estate is up because private people are stealing the opportunities from citizens, unlike citizens, residents, who need a place to stay. That's what I think we have to fold into this. I don't think a corporation, I think the last time I checked, and my numbers may be wrong because, but I think the last time that I checked, there was one corporation that owned almost 50% of the housing in Los Angeles. That is unconscionable. That is grievous. Those are the kinds of things that we have to get at. And any corruption that exists in the city of Los Angeles as it relates to policymakers and elected officials, it is connected to corporate, moneyed corporations who are taking advantage. And so we have to deal with that issue specifically, and I don't see that mentioned here. Maybe it is, but I don't see it mentioned here. And it's certainly not mentioned clearly if it is. Thank you.
Commissioner Yap.
Thank you, Commissioner Yap here. I would like to understand what the item is that's before us. I mean, the summary was of July 30th, and I know that was a 10 a.m. weekday meeting that happened. And, so hitting and starting from somewhere is a very important place. I think, Commissioner Thomas, you hit some very big items, which I know we're not trying to solve in this conversation. So I'm wondering, what is the ask for this particular item? For us to digest this as a summary and a starting place so that committee work can begin? Is that what's before us?
Yeah, thank you for the question, Commissioner Yap. So exactly, this is a starting place, not the end place. We fully anticipate that this list will grow, and it should grow, and we want it to grow. But this is to give initial recommendations to the staff on if there is agreement among the commission that these are areas that we want to explore to further research, then to give them the green light. But these conversations will continue.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Yap here again. And that's helpful context that we need to start from somewhere. And that's what this is. We have feedback from the mayor that we've also received. But I think that if the item is to put us on notice that staff has helped us to digest what was a lot of material over what I understand to be a 6-hour session on that day, July 30th. And this would be where the committee that focuses in this particular area would begin work.
That's correct. I would also add that we have, I believe it's 2 more study sessions ahead of us. And I'll talk about this more when we get to the committee's item on the agenda. After we finish all the study sessions, I think we will want to have a discussion on what we want the committees to prioritize. It will be left up to the committees to decide, but at least so that the committees understand what the full commission is looking for.
Okay, so then just to wrap this, at least my question, it seems we don't have an action exactly here. This is more of an informative item.
We will want to, the executive director.
So what the report is that the staff has prepared is very much like the start of a menu for you. The team really took everything that you've heard so far and presented to you with options of a menu. Do you order the full menu? Some people don't. Some people do. And this can, to the chair's point, things will be added and things will be taken off as time moves on, and this commission really narrows down what they want to do, what you all want to do, and what we're able to do in the time that we have. So it's really, this document's really helping to focus and form the discussion moving forward, and for the commission to kind of set their priorities and help staff know what your priorities are as we continue to do further research on your behalf, continue to look for more speakers on your behalf. Whenever someone says, oh, I'd love to have so-and-so come and speak, we're taking note, we're reaching out especially when we have contact information. So if you can provide contact information, that's always helpful. And as mentioned before, we haven't turned anyone down yet. And it's just been people's schedules sometimes that have prevented people from coming. But yeah, so we're looking for direction from the commission as to maybe you think this document is perfect as it is and to continue marching with it, and we'll continue working on it on our own, or if you have specific suggestions and additions, subtractions, like if you see something you're just like, staff, we just will not have time to work on this, or where is this subject specifically? It could have been a throwaway line that, a presenter had in their remarks that we missed, but you really thought like, hey, there's something in that. And you want that uplifted for further. So that's how I imagine this discussion will end, with a motion to approve a set of not so much items, but a set of a subject matter to keep on moving forward for staff to follow.
Commissioner Yap, did you?
Yeah, so I'm feeling ill-equipped to make that have that conversation, in part because we haven't heard from different sides of this particular. I mean, if the ask is to say, this is a summary of July 30th, I can get on board with that. But when it comes to this guides our conversation or is a directive to the committee, I think that overstates really where we are. I mean, I think that it is where, in fact, one of the points in the mayor's letter was to look to some of additional feedback from the mayor's team to help inform what we're going to do next.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't want an action on this summary of July 30th to limit any of that discussion.
And sorry if I wasn't, absolutely. This is not locking this commission from here to this point. If, again, I think I've given this example to a few people, if you approve this document that has A, B, C, and D, that doesn't mean we'll never look at E, F, and G later, or that we have to keep on moving with A, B, C, and D. Maybe at a subsequent meeting or commission meeting, you're like, you know what, A, B, and F, that's where we're headed, or F, G, and H. It's just to help really for the discussion, because obviously as a Brown Act a body, we can't have all of you in one room to discuss this unless we do this publicly. So this is our first opportunity for you all to really discuss these matters and for us to take notes, as opposed to just the question and answers that we did at the presentation, if that makes sense. So it's not locking into perpetuity. It's just giving us guidance.
That's right. So therefore, it's informative, and if I'm just framing it for my own benefit, this is a July 30th summary that the future Planning and Infrastructure Commission could consider, and the end.
Yeah.
And what I
we have Commissioner Stein in the queue.
Mine will be very, very short. It's a follow-up to Commissioner Yap and Commissioner Thomas. Don't we, on this list of items before us, have to determine first which are really done by ordinance? And the Charter Reform Commission really doesn't have a horse in that race. And then to try to concentrate on those that we really, I have it on. Oh, okay. I apologize. I was just saying, aren't several items. I'll just take one that's real obvious, but there's more than one. Increasing the FAR in DTLA. It's not a chart, in my opinion. That's not a charter reform item. Something in ordinance can be done in, a motion, a second. No discussion, 15 ayes, unless there are oppositions. I'm not trying to presuppose that, but it shouldn't be something that takes up the very limited amount of time that we have in order to make our recommendation.
Commissioner Snyder, just follow up on your example. Yeah, the research that we would ask the staff to conduct would present that information for us. And for example, on the FAR ratio, the ratio is in the charter. So we would, if we wanted to modify it, have to address it in the charter. I had, before I go back to Commissioner Thomas, were there any other commissioners who did not get an initial chance to speak yet that wanted to speak? Commissioner Mack.
I think, is this on? Okay. I think just going back to the idea of like, this is a starting place. I think I just wanted to, I don't know if this is a space for me to then add something to this guide. Okay, perfect. So I would like to see neighborhood council somewhere in here, and particularly around the land use. I think we heard from public comment, but also in written public comment that neighborhood councils do work around land use committees, and neighborhood councils are built in a way with attention to be the closest to government. And I know from last meeting, Commissioner Fuentes mentioned to have done Department of Neighborhood Empowerment to come speak to us. And so maybe that's something that they can talk to us about, how they work around land use and how we can incorporate something in the way that they operate in the charter reform.
Commissioner Thomas.
It's just a very simple request. I know that you all are trying to conserve paper, but I would appreciate that. I would like this narrative to be one document, this 2 pages. And then I would like this chart. Like, I would think that the second page would be behind this. You understand what I'm saying? So just basically, if attachment B should go page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4. I mean, attachment A. And then attachment B should go page 1, page 2, page 3, because it just makes it easier. I'm looking at her, how did you do that? What are you doing? You know, it's difficult to follow is what I'm saying. And I'm trying to listen to you as you read. And then I'm also trying to follow along, and I'm getting lost. And I think it's just because of the way that it's put together. It's not, you know, a criticism about what's in the document, but just some of us are not as visual. And so if it could just be like, if we get an attachment, that attachment is a standalone, and we can separate the two, and we can read the narrative along with you. That's what I would ask.
Commissioner Lewis.
Just piggybacking on what Commissioner Thomas was discussing, it's just a formatting recommendation for me. So for attachment B, the 5 proposed reforms, and then there's this one standalone document, front and back. The 3 focus areas under planning and infrastructure, if those were clearly displayed on attachment B, so those 5 proposed reforms, how they're aligned or how they correlate with these 3. So I'm looking, for example, at say proposed reforms to planning streamline and eliminate corruption from planning approvals. Which of these 3 is that correlated with? Would it be number 2, structure and governance of Department of Public Works, or is it 3, land use decision making, et cetera? So just something on here, attachment B, that makes it clear where those are these 3 focus areas are aligned. So does that make sense? So
In
I'd
the
say on
committee-
attachment B, if I could look at this and see where of these 5, how they are clearly aligned with and correlated with these 3 focus areas.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to figure that out and I can't, so. So just a format recommendation. Okay.
I have Commissioners Schlatter, Andrades, and Field in the queue. Commissioner Schlatter.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate the conversation, in particular, Commissioner Yap's points. Oh, and Commissioner Yap, thank you for reminding us for the listener to speak our identity first. So I'm Martin Schlatter. I just want to underscore the point that you clarified in this conversation to make sure that what I understood is really the case. And that is that the document in front of us is starting point for conversation, something of a summary of what we've heard to date, and a place from which to build future concepts and further detail about the relationship to specific charter sections or other elements to which the item is related, possibly some pro and con components. Today's charge is to adjust what you've presented here in any kind of, in anything that we feel is significant, to add items that we've not heard or seen here, and to remove something if we think it's not worthy of further discussion. Okay. So with that in mind, I do want to make a couple of points, and I won't make all of them at this time, but want to continue the healthy conversation of the commission. One thing that I think is really a critical area in the infrastructure development section is a relation to revenue. I think in here, the topic of funding is mentioned, but I do think that that it needs a stronger call out here at the highest of levels. If we're talking about the infrastructure that the city is constructing and maintaining, then we need to discuss the relationship to revenue. The discussion of revenue relates to the discussion of capital investment planning, but also to the authority of the departments in charge to manage that funding. And this is where we begin to overlap with other issue areas that are on the proposed committee list, as Commissioner Lewis pointed out. So as part of the infrastructure section, I would like to call out for further conversation the topic of revenue and the components of how that revenue and the authority of control over that revenue. The discussion as it relates to the Board of Public Works is perhaps too narrowly presented here as well, in that you mentioned in the summary that there are 15 departments that oversee or that touch upon the right-of-way. We had a narrow insight into Board of Public Works conversation and to the fact that transportation, for example, doesn't report up through the Board of Public Works. So a better understanding of the relationship in infrastructure development to the other departments of the city. One challenge I had in looking at the summary that you provided is it does a good job of representing discussion and presentations from our July 30th meeting. And then it appends onto it one item from Rec and Parks and one item from the Harbor Commission. And I'm unclear, based on the previous conversation we had about the orientation packet that you provided, about whether we have then fully heard from the already presented letters of the different departments in the city, or whether we need to be updating that list. And my understanding from having looked at it originally is that it sort of stopped at the point that the last vote was had to make some charter amendments. So I do think that there are additional council and city communications that may be valuable in providing us background to create that list. I would like further clarification on that. It doesn't have to be today, but at some point about whether we can have a clarification from the previous orientation packet that shows what's been taken care of, what hasn't been taken care of, and what's come in since that was created, or since that was referenced in the content of which that was referenced. The discussion about recreation parks also raises then a topic related to infrastructure development, and that is around property acquisition and property ownership. It's mentioned that, you know, there's a desire for greater park space, and it's unclear if there are charter components of how we acquire and manage property that we should be looking at. I think with that, I'd like to take a pause to allow other commissioners to speak, and I'd come back to speak to the planning section in a bit. Thank you.
Just to sort of respond to, so those letters in the orientation packet are fairly out of date, and some of those issues actually have been addressed in the most recent, you know, charter reform. So we're sort of going through and determining those in real time, you know, which are still relevant. And yeah, I definitely agree. It would be helpful to sort of bring those departments in to see, you know, to sort of check in on what they proposed in those letters.
Thank you. So an update so that we're all up to speed on the latest information, I think would be really valuable baseline information for us and the public. So thank you very much for agreeing to that.
Commissioner Andrades.
My questions pertain to the documents before us. So attachment A is all of the recommended reforms from all of the groups, and you took attachment A to create attachment B, which is the recommended, staff recommended reforms using that list that we should explore, correct?
Yeah, so, you know, we took sort of those individual reforms that were proposed, and I would say we group them into sort of categories for you to address, like issue areas. So, you know, lots of things about departments over infrastructure are not working well. So broader category around, you know, how do we make a more efficient organization of the infrastructure departments? You know, similarly, you know, there's too much discretionary review and planning, which creates opportunities for corruption. How do we curtail that? So with these broad categories, we weren't trying to sort of preclude the commission from addressing anything, but sort of offer a framework of how to think about them, sort of like that broader overarching issue that we're trying to get at, as opposed to these very like discrete issues.
Are there
presented.
specific reforms in attachment A that were left off of the ideas or the buckets in attachment B, or is there anywhere where I can verify like, oh, you know, cell 5 says you should do X, Y, or Z, and that's reflected in this specific row in attachment B? I think going forward in the future, I would like to see visually where the specific reforms, what bucket they actually fit into. Because I know in some places and areas to explore, you were very specific, like change the Board of Public Works. But some are obviously in attachment A, but I can't actually see which bucket they might fit into. And I think just to make sure that there's not a drop off of like the FAR, like the ratio, because I don't see that in attachment B, like making sure that there's some way to show that we're still tracking these when we move on to the actual recommendations would be helpful going forward.
Okay. Yeah.
Thank you.
Commissioner Field.
Thank you. I have learned a lot and appreciate the comments of my colleagues. If we're talking format, and I know today we're not like zeroing in, but could they be numbered? It's really hard to talk about, oh, it's the one about allowed Department of Recreation. I mean, why don't we just have a number next to each of these, you know, all these boxes so that we can at least reference them, or at least the committee that will be looking more deeply can be more specific. Just a thought on clarity. The other thing, in addition to what I've requested around someone, either literally from Sacramento or who really understands the impact of the Sacramento legislation on local planning and zoning. But in addition, I don't see anything here talking about artificial intelligence. I know some cities are starting to use that to deal with their approval process to speed up the approvals for housing construction, for example. I mean, I think we need an expert, maybe not from the city, maybe from one of our wonderful private sector folks out there to talk about what can be done to speed up the process, to make sure we can have more housing. I just don't see here some of the sort of external factors that I think have to be included in our discussion. So thank you.
Yeah, Commissioner Field and to the entire commission, I think this is very helpful feedback on how we put together and format the document for future deliberations. And one thing that's already coming to my mind is for every single recommendation, no matter where it comes from, public comment, commissioners themselves, presenters, that one of the things is we put on a grid and then we show like where each one is. And some of them may not even make it to this additional round. And that's okay, because I think we all know this. Unfortunately, we're going to have to dispense with items throughout this process as things narrow, as our timeline advances. But we're not there yet. Did I have any other, I know Commissioner Schlatter is going to speak again, but any other commissioners before we go for another round? All right, Commissioner Schlatter.
Thank you. I realize that I want to make sure that contracting components are also a key part of the infrastructure discussion. With respect to the document that's presented, you mentioned the city attorney as something that's being put into the other category. And I just note that we talked also about controller, and I'm assuming that also would be put in the other category, how it relates to Department of Finance, just like city attorney would relate to legislative analyst, for example. Okay, thank you. So speaking to the housing and development component, I just want to call out that two things. One, I think we would benefit from a greater, or at least a second presentation going through the development process. We did speak to it. It's complicated. Part of the discussion is that it might be too complicated for public use, but we need to have a clearer understanding of that before we start to assign judgment on whether there should be an area planning commission, what the authority of an appeals body is, et cetera. So I just want to flag that, and perhaps that's something that goes into committee level, but I do think that the entire commission would benefit from that conversation. And a related topic on that for me is that streamlining is presented as synonymous here with an anti-corruption strategy. And I don't believe that that is accurate. I think streamlining has benefit, and the purpose of preventing corruption is obviously paramount as well. But I believe that fewer decision points might mean just fewer opportunities for corruption. More or decentralized decision-making could mean decisions made with less transparency. So I do think that we have to be sensitive in presenting our options here about where the power lies and what the value of redundancy is. And to the speaker's point earlier, that there is also a desire beyond streamlining, which is to ensure responsiveness and the transparency to the community. And both of those things can take time, and they can be frustrating for folks who want a single decision and be done with it. But it is important in the 245 conversation that the council retains authority to be responsive to the people who elected it. And so I just want to ensure that we don't give a false promise about solving the corruption issue with some simple structural adjustments, but understand that that goal must be paired with ethics, expectations, and transparency lens as well. Let me see if I want to say one more thing about this. With that, I think there is more to learn and discuss, but to the point that Commissioner Yap has revealed for us, this is an evolving process. We're going to improve this document, and we're going to expand on the content in it, but also on the analysis of it. And I'm very much looking forward to that, and looking forward to working with the staff to achieve it. Thank you.
Are there any other commissioners who would like to speak on the item? Okay, seeing none, I'm going to move a motion that we approve the initial report from the staff with the feedback that was given from the commissioners. Is there a second?
I just want to clarify if you don't, oh, I'm sorry. We need a
No,
second.
please, yeah, is there a second?
Commissioner Yap, second.
All right, Commissioner Schlesinger.
Thanks. I just want to clarify the language of approve. And perhaps, is it appropriate to receive it and file with the expectation that is going to be updated in the future? I just don't want to overstate or create any kind of misunderstanding about what we've done about any specific item or viewpoint shared here. And it's just a caution. It's not because I have any real problem that I'm highlighting, but I'm feeling cautious given the state of the conversation.
Without objection, we'll amend to receive and file.
Yeah,
with
it's a
the
report back
feedback.
as well.
Yeah.
And to report back being added to that, I think that's perfect. That's perfect language. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion before us is to receive and file the staff report and to adjust with the feedback of the commission and to report back.
So moved.
All right, is there any objection? Seeing none, the motion is passed. All right, we now move on to item number 2. I'm going to make a small change to the document on the proposed committees. Provide a small statement, and then I have Commissioner Stein first in the queue, and then we'll have discussion. So, okay. One second, everyone. For the public, I just want to let you know we're on item number 2, discussion and possible action relative to the establishment of Charter Reform Commission standing committees on specific subject matters, including but not limited to the actual creation of said standing committees and related matters. Okay, on the proposed document, I will only have adjustments to Committee 1, Planning and Infrastructure. On area number 2, which currently reads Structure and Governance of the Department of Public Works, that will be changed to Infrastructure, Structure, and Governance. And then we'll say examining departmental organization, decision-making authority, accountability mechanisms, and so on. On item 3 under that committee, it currently reads land use, decision-making structure, and governance, city departments only. I am striking city departments only. Those are the only changes on this document. Okay, I'm gonna hopefully address some of the questions that commissioners may have with the following statement. Colleagues, our commission has been asked to take on a wide range of difficult and important issues. To manage that workload effectively, I'm proposing a committee structure that allows us to dig deeper into specific subject areas while keeping the full body engaged in all major decisions. Only the full commission can make decisions about what to recommend to the city council. I want the committees to help us make those eventual decisions by summarizing the key considerations and trade-offs on the topics they study. Before we begin committee work, we will continue with our first round of study sessions and deliberations as a full commission. This is important groundwork. Advocates, city departments, elected officials, academics, and other stakeholders all have priorities for us to consider. These requests are varied and complex. At some point, we will have to set aside issues we cannot realistically advance, but we are not there yet. The committee structure I'm proposing is designed to focus our energy while still being broad enough to capture emerging issues. Committees would research topics in detail and bring back options for the full body to deliberate on. Each committee chair will guide how discussions are shaped within their topic areas. And if commissioners feel a topic needs to be expanded or a new issue added, that can be raised with me as the commission chair, so the structure remains flexible and responsive. Overlap, as has been mentioned, is expected and healthy given the interconnected nature of governance. For example, a 2-year budget cycle would primarily fall to the Personnel and Budget Committee, but the Government Structure Committee could study whether to create a CEO and CFO roles and how those positions would relate to that process. While the Planning and Infrastructure Committee might examine how a capital improvement program fits into it. Ultimately, these ideas will percolate up to the full commission where they will be reconciled and integrated. Under this timeline, we will not begin committee work any earlier than October 8th. There are still some pending items that I'm working on and will report back to the commission before then. All committees will be assigned a staff person. We will be preparing a memo for committee chairs on how to set a meeting time with staff support. Staff will also assist with tasks such as securing presenters, ensuring Brown Act compliance, and providing additional support. I will be providing a structure on how committees should present their findings, make recommendations on which areas to advance and which to set aside, and how the committees update the full commission on their progress along the ways. I know there are different views on whether committees should be standing or ad hoc. The city attorney will advise us on the legal framework and commissioners will share their preferences. For me, what matters most is a transparent and public process. Ad hoc committees may be permissible in limited circumstances, but they do not require public notice, open meetings, or opportunities for public comments. However, I do not believe any commissioner is advocating not having those requirements. I am concerned about the idea that committee members could freely confer with the majority of the committee members outside of public meetings. That presents a slippery slope. Decisions risk being predetermined outside of public view. Committee meetings can and should foster collaboration while respecting quorum rules, serial meeting restrictions, and the transparency that the public deserves. In closing, I believe this structure strikes the right balance between efficiency, flexibility, and openness. It allows us to manage our workload, invite public engagement, and ensures that the final recommendations are made by the full commission. I believe this is the right foundation for our work. With that, I ask for a motion to adopt the proposed committee structure.
Point of order, I have some questions for the city attorney prior to any type of motions.
You got it. Yes, if we could have the city
Mr.
attorney.
Rowe can be heard.
Good evening. Can everyone hear me okay back here too? Okay. One caveat before we get into the questions. So as the city attorney, obviously I provide advice to you, the client. So I may be limited in the answers that I can provide during open session. So I'm not trying to be coy, but if you have questions that I cannot respond to in open session, I will let you know. And if you'd like to, we can circle back individually or at a different time.
You want to introduce yourself?
Yes, I'm Jonathan Grote with the city attorney's office.
Mr. Grow, my first three questions are just a set of predicate, not to look into your life. How long have you been a city attorney?
I'm sorry, I'm not the city attorney.
No, I understand that.
And I-
How long have you been an assistant city attorney, a deputy city attorney, whatever your title may be?
So I don't see how these are appropriate for this session, but I
It's-
don't.
It's a predicate to questions that are coming on, so.
I would ask that you skip to the next question, please.
Pardon?
Respectfully. I would just ask politely that you skip to the next question, please, respectfully.
Because I have follow-up questions based upon what you may be telling council. So therefore, I'm entitled to know, and I don't know what's such a difficult question of how long you've been a city attorney.
This isn't voir dire, Ted. Commissioner
Sir,
Sign.
don't interrupt me or I'll start with you on some real questions that I have. I'm a commissioner. I have the right to ask questions. How long you been a city attorney?
In what capacity?
In any, just how long you've been in the office? It's not that difficult a question.
So I've been with the city attorney's office in some capacity since 2014.
Thank you.
But to be clear, I am not the elected city attorney.
Okay. Are you the city attorney that advises the city council also?
I am, all of the city attorneys are available to advise the city council. So yes, I am a part of a branch that advises city council.
Okay. And for how long have you been advising the city council?
Again, it really depends. I'm not trying to be coy, but it depends on the nature. If it was transportation related matters since 2018.
Okay. My question is, we had a discussion the other day, Justin, Commissioner Thomas, and myself
So I'm
and
gonna stop
you.
you right there really quick. Again, I'm not looking to be combative here, but I would request that you please do not divulge any attorney-client privileged communications that we had.
Okay,
during
then
this
I'll ask it a different way. What's the difference between an ad hoc committee and a standing committee?
Again, we covered this during the training.
But the
you would
other
like-
members of the horseshoe
So for the benefit
weren't
of the-
there at that time.
Understood. For the benefit of the commission, I would say this. If the commission is interested in creating ad hoc commissions, I would advise that just consult with our office when you have a commission in mind, and we can let you know if it meets those requirements. I do not want to go through those requirements right now. I can tell you, looking at this list that's been provided, and I believe what has been moved for approval, these all appear to be standing committees. They are longer in duration. I believe they are contemplated to last through the lifespan of this commission, the CRC. They cover the same scope as the CRC. So again, if you have questions specifically about ad hocs that you'd like to make, if there's a motion that you would like to make to create an ad hoc, my suggestion to the body is to approve the creation of an ad hoc committee subject to the approval of the city attorney's office or subject to consultation with the city attorney's office and the executive director. We are more than happy to help you sort through that, but during open session is not the appropriate time to do so. And
Well, we can't go into closed session.
this is not something that is ripe for closed session, correct? If you have
Does
specific,
the city council have ad hoc committees?
if you have specific questions.
I have specific questions.
Then I would suggest that you set up a meeting through Justin and we can set up a time to discuss.
Sir, I have many members of this committee that this is the first commission they've ever sat on.
Understood. So if the commission would like to request formal advice from the city attorney's office, then we can do so in a confidential memo that is covered by attorney.
Well, mine are simple questions that I got off of Google. Does the city council have ad hoc committees?
So they have the Ad hoc Olympic Committee, which is not an actual ad hoc committee for the purposes of the Brown Act. It is called an ad hoc committee, but it is open to the Brown Act. They schedule their meetings in accordance with the Brown Act, providing 72 hours notice, and they're open to the public.
But we could do that also, could we not?
If you would like to call a committee ad hoc without utilizing the provisions of the Brown Act that are unique to ad hocs that do not require you to adhere to the Brown Act, you can call it an ad hoc if you'd like. I'm not trying to be flippant, but just to quote from law school, you can call it a bowl of spaghetti.
I tend to disagree on your comment. You're not trying to be flippant. but that's just my one opinion.
Understood.
Is there an ad hoc committee on community rebuild that's chaired, I believe, by Councilman Park after the tragic fires in the Palisades?
Yes, and that is also subject to the Brown Act.
Okay, but is it an ad hoc committee?
The title says ad hoc, but much like the ad hoc Olympic Committee, it is subject to the Brown Act and is required to be an open meeting.
Could we have an ad hoc committee
So the
and make
devil's-
it clear that we will be subject to the Brown Act?
So again, if you want to call it an ad hoc in name only, you can call it that. But if you're asking whether or not you can have an ad hoc committee that would allow you to have closed door conversations, that is a different conversation. I suggest that we deal with it on a.
Can we
case by
have the
case
Zoom,
basis.
can we do Zoom meetings in an ad hoc as long as we have an opportunity for the public to be heard and watch our deliberations?
So likely the answer is no. But again, it depends on what kind of ad hoc you're talking about. If you're talking about the ad hoc LA Olympic Committee, that is a Brown Act meeting, right? That is not an ad hoc. It is ad hoc in name only, but it is not by definition legally an ad hoc committee.
Could you explain to me why it's called ad hoc if it's not ad hoc?
I don't have an answer to. If you would like an answer to that, we can get back to you on that, but I don't have an answer to.
Let me ask you a different question. You are the only one, meaning the city attorney's office, who is the legal entity to represent the city of Los Angeles, correct?
We are charged with providing legal advice to the city. That includes its commissions, its
And
council.
are there times that city council and or other commissions consider your advice, but go forward with what they wanted to do?
I will not speak to anything that any other department, other council, other commission has done. If you have questions about what you can do as this commission, that is one thing. But again, as an attorney, I would ask you to please not ask questions about what other entities.
I'm
have
just
done.
asking what's a public record? Are there some that have gone forward despite the advice of the city attorney? I don't know what's such a difficult question to answer. On a public record that they ignored and went forward because this isn't done in open public and I did it purposely this way so everybody here could hear.
So I have entertained your questions. I am more than happy to discuss this offline if you would like to, but I do not believe this line of questioning is appropriate for open session. And I would ask permission from the chair that we move on.
Well, you can ask, but they're not going to shut me up.
Okay, again, I am more than happy to meet with you afterwards if you would like.
I'm only one member. There are 12 of us that are, that want to hear. And so far you've been evasive, in my opinion.
I have Commissioner Field in the queue, but Commissioner Stein, if there are any other questions that you feel may be appropriate for open session, maybe if we could focus on those.
Were you present when Rick Cole, who I think this commission, all of us thought was extraordinarily talented and had good ideas, when he spoke with Justin, I just happened to be next to him by coincidence. And he said to Justin, "Oh, no, you can do ad hocs." And Justin said, "No, we're not going to do that." Were you present for that?
I was not present for that. I also have tremendous respect for Rick Cole as well. I will say the options are, if the whole commission would like to be briefed on something that we cannot or should not discuss during open session, we are more than happy to discuss sending a confidential memo, which is different because it does not involve the Brown Act. But these questions in open session they're not appropriate for open session.
I'm sorry,
It's not an outright refusal to provide advice to the commission. It is a different method of providing attorney-client privileged communications to the commission, all the commission members.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I'm sorry. I didn't understand your answer with a confidential memo.
So any client of the city can request a confidential report from the city attorney's office. Obviously, it's just a request. Similarly to how I believe earlier someone asked if they could have a representative, or I think it was implied, whether you could have a representative from Sacramento. Obviously, we do not have the authority to force somebody from Sacramento to come down, but you are allowed to make those requests. And I believe the executive director will do what he can to accommodate those requests.
Commissioner Field.
Yes, thank you. I'm going to come at this question very differently. First of all, I want to ask, if I may, Chairman Mesa, you said committees will probably start around October 8th.
Yes, at the earliest.
And is there an end date for when all committees must complete their research?
I'm sorry, Commissioner, I can't hear you.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I was going to say, the committees would start presumably around October 8th. Is there an end date expected for when all committees, whatever we may call them, would report back to the full commission?
I would imagine that let me rephrase. I would anticipate that they would conclude their work sometime in March because we have to get the final recommendations to council sometime in April.
Okay, thank you. I'm rather surprised. I thought you would say that committees would have to report back, let's say, starting December, only because each committee theoretically is going to delve deep, come back to the full commission, which will also, no doubt, those of us who aren't on that particular committee are going to have questions. We're going to need, I think, more than a month to receive committee reports, have the full commission ask questions, and come to some specific conclusion. So I'm just making a comment. You don't have to change your plan right now.
But Commissioner Field, the two are not inconsistent. So what I envision happening is that the committees work, and as they finish an item, they make recommendations to the commission, but it's a continue as you go. So they may, an analogy that someone gave me could work like a strike force. They can say they're going to focus on this specific subject under their purview, dig into it, and then maybe by September, they might have their first recommendation that can go before the commission, but they'll continue on because there are other items that may take time. There are some items that will probably be pretty easy to resolve.
Oh, thank you. That's very helpful, that it won't just be committees, and then finally the commission. It can be, if I may use the word, piecemeal. That's helpful. Thank you. I think I wanted to ask, where did our city attorney? Thank you. Yeah, if you don't mind, I think this might be for you. And by the way, I have to admit, I found it surprising to hear that my Brown Act training was considered confidential, but okay, that's just me. This is my at least third time on a Brown Act body. But my question is this: I'm not concerned so much about the name, ad hoc, standing. I'm totally in favor of every committee being publicly accessible with the usual notice and access. What I'm interested in for efficiency purposes, and we were talking a lot about how to make our city more efficient, what are the criteria, no matter what we call the committee, for having Zoom meetings that are open to the public, that they get notice, that they can make public comment, they can hear the entire discussion and presentations, only because I can't even imagine with the current schedule we have as a full commission, how our staff is going to do the work of having, 4 different committees, which, by the way, kudos, Ray and staff. I think you've done a really good job on sort of delineating the function of each proposed committee. But how can we do it on Zoom, keep the public access, keep the public, notification, but not have to have physical facilities every time? I know we have to be willing to post the agenda. That's what public libraries are for. That's where I've done many Zoom meetings for other Brown Act bodies, where I just went to the local library, which is a lot easier than coming down here. And I was able to participate in a meeting that was accessible to the public. What are the options?
So again, it depends on what the ask is. If the ask is whether or not staff can participate remotely, that is completely different. Remember, when we're talking about the Brown Act, really the concerns are about the members. So everybody here sitting around this horseshoe type of table. The honest answer is that there's not a lot of good options currently for this body or other Brown Act bodies within the city to remote in or have remote meetings. Neighborhood councils are dealt with separately, and that's a product of state law. So the basic requirements that would likely be enforced here, and I understand if you were to participate in a meeting from a public library, that's one thing. But if you were to example, participate in a meeting from your own private home, there are options, but you would have to list your address where you're going to participate in the meeting from on the agenda. It would have to be open to the public. It would have to be ADA compliant, things that we would not recommend doing. And so currently at this time, and I understand if you were serving on Brown Act bodies before, you're right. There was a large virtual meetings were commonplace, particularly during the pandemic, but that's because the Brown Act requirements were relaxed during the pandemic.
So you're basically saying there's no practical way to have committee meetings on remotely?
Not for the whole body without,
Well, no, but committees, meaning, these subsections of whatever we decide, 3 to 5
So
people.
Each committee, assuming that they're not an actual ad hoc under the Brown Act, would be subject to the Brown Act, meaning that your quorum requirements would all apply as well, meaning that you'd have to post, as you've identified, post them in a public place. Assuming that it was a 5-member committee, I imagine that a quorum would be 3, a majority. So if you had more than that together, you would need to be in person or would have to make sure that wherever you're remoting in from was absolutely Brown Act compliant. And I'll be honest, I don't see a practical way of doing that without great exposure to members. If that's something that the body would like to entertain, which I would highly recommend against at this time, please make sure to consult with Justin, with Max, us before proceeding with that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I have a question.
Commissioner Thomas.
So where does the money come to host these meetings?
I think he said, where does the money come?
Where does the money? Hosting meetings isn't free, and so I definitely can relate to making it easy for the public to show up, but I don't think it's free to be here, right? Is it free to be? Is this meeting? Is this? Space free? Is it in the budget? I mean, how much does it cost to meet here?
So I hand on my heart, I don't have that information.
Okay.
Obviously, you're correct in that there is always going to be a staff.
I just want to know because.
Well, after I get Jonathan's bill, I'm kidding. I always have to make Lori joke. There are costs. When we meet here at City Hall, the costs are greatly diminished as opposed to if we meet at a private, even Cal State Northridge had a cost. Some universities are waiving that cost or co-sponsoring an event with us at a public, at a public facility that we can do a Brown Act meeting at their university. I believe the library that we had a meeting didn't have a cost, but the cost associated with meetings like this is because in addition to, the IT service, we have, we're paying some overtime because these meetings start at 4 o'clock and go past 5 o'clock. So we have some overtime, but when we do it at City Hall, substantially cheaper. And that of course comes out of our budget.
And so I'll ask my another question that I asked like indirectly before. What kind of, I think somebody mentioned AI, as commissioners, what's the possibility of us being able to, of the city providing Read AI for us? There's a lot of documents. There's a lot of documents that need to be read. And so we have to read those documents, but what Read AI does is that it organizes them. And so we're able to really focus on those things that we think are really important. It's also would be good to use Read AI for public comment, because it would automatically put the public comment into the sections that are appropriate, which is what I think somebody else asked. And so I'm just thinking, and I don't know what the budget is. I don't know if it's possible, but I would imagine that it should be. I don't know.
I love saying yes to people. You already have it on your LAcity.org.
Oh, it's on there?
On all your documents. It's called Google Gemini. Gemini rolled out for all city accounts maybe 2 months ago. I've definitely used it to help summarize some things. I've definitely used it to help, refresh, if you will, emails. But it's definitely there. And if commissioners are interested in some trainings, I know IT has pre-recorded trainings that I could share with commissioners to kind of brief you on how Gemini works.
That would be
Absolutely.
great. And I need to also be able to reset my email. I don't know. So anyway, I appreciate that. But I don't know if that's the same as Read AI, but
And it's free.
but everything free, we're paying for this stuff, right? And so I just want us to be able to be the most efficient. And I want us, we are here for the residents of Los Angeles, and I want us to be able to do the best possible job in terms of synthesizing the information that we get and not missing anything. And I think that is an appropriate way. I've never heard of it. But I would still ask, even though it's free, but I would still ask, because I just think, I don't know. I just know Read AI, it goes, but we can't have Zoom meetings, right? We can't do Zoom. But I just think it might be again, I can't talk about it in terms of the comparison, because if it's Google and if it's free, may not be.
I'll have to talk to you afterwards, give you more information.
Do any other commissioners have questions for the city attorney?
And as we discussed before, we are available. So if something comes up, please let us know. Thank you.
Could we get someone to pull that? I mean, there's a.
That's not going to be possible. I don't think those.
We'll check. Okay. Well.
Oh, there are curtains.
Thank you. Step. Okay, well, on the, not to stifle discussion, the good news is that we are on our last item of the agenda, but that is helpful.
Well, I would make a motion to postpone the last item until we get a report from the city attorney with enough time that people can digest it.
Okay, there's a motion to postpone the item until we get more information from the city attorney. Is there a second?
I say.
All right, there is a second. So discussion. Well, I think we should.
Chair, Mr.
Okay, this is
Here.
Yeah.
I have a clarifying question.
Commissioner
What
Lewis.
information exactly are we getting from the city attorney?
It's the confidential memo that he won't say in open session why he's be able to justify his position, why we can't set up ad hoc committees and why we can't do a Zoom. I, for one, committed last September to be a member of this. And at that time, we had a much lesser number of meetings that we thought that we were going to have. Now, our meetings, forgetting ad hoc committee, standing committee, call it what you want. I think our number of meetings has gone somewhere 28, 29, 30. 15 of those were mandated by the ordinance that established us to meet in the individual council districts. Now we're going to have additional meetings for, again, pick whatever word you want before committee. Candidly, we're a volunteer commission. And I think there's only so much you can ask of a volunteer commission. And that's the reason for my motion. That was my reasons for my questions for Mr. Grote. So I hope that answered Commissioner Thomas's question. Commissioner Lewis's question, I'm sorry.
I have Commissioner Schlatter and myself in the queue, but Commissioner Lewis, did you have a follow-up to that? Are you good?
No, but I appreciate the explanation.
Commissioner Schlatter.
For the purposes of discussing Commissioner Stein's comment, I wanted to ask a question of you, Mr. Chair, regarding your concept of that you've presented here. And it does relate to the quantity of meetings that we may have to entertain as individual commissioners. And that is about your vision as it relates to the original plan for commission meetings. Once this work of committees is underway and we have a sense of the scope in which they are, reviewing information, is it your thinking that we may revisit the list of full commission meetings to at least update it, or I'm not saying necessarily to reduce meetings, but maybe to replace a couple? I just wanted to get your thinking about how we're going to manage that workload.
Yeah, thank you for that, Commissioner Schlatter. I believe I referenced this, but it was probably a smaller point when I introduced the discussion on the bylaws, which is we currently have the engagement plan, which is structured so that we have a total of 3 sets of study sessions and 3 sets of deliberations. What I had mentioned when I introduced the bylaws was that after the first session, we would convert all future study sessions into committee meetings. So for the next 2 rounds, we would essentially be cutting in half the amount of full committee meetings. We still have them calendared, but those would be converted to their respective committees. And committees would have the liberty to add additional meetings if they want to. But as far as full commission meetings, we'd be cutting it in half after this initial round of study sessions and deliberations.
So relatedly, a concern that I had was about the staff's capacity to be able to manage and prepare information in advance and track the number of meetings that are happening. But it sounds like you're keeping it somewhat steady, potentially, while we're able to adapt. And hopefully then the staff doesn't view any workload difficulties with what's proposed. Okay. Is it okay to ask the city attorney for one additional question? And that is, I believe I know the answer, but I want to make sure that I'm correct and that we hear it as a body. If a committee is established, what is the expectation or ability of a commissioner to attend either as an observer or to make sure that we may be hearing that information that the committee is receiving as well? So are there limits on commissioners being able to attend committee meetings? Thank you.
So committee meetings for which you're not a member. So let's say there's 2 committees and you're on committee 1 and you'd like to attend or observe committee number 2. That is permissible to some extent as a silent observer. The safest course of action obviously would be to, since you can't participate in it anyway, since you're not a member of that, would be to listen to the recording afterwards. I understand, or to listen in live as it's being streamed out. Those are certainly safer options. But if you want to attend as a silent observer, then you are allowed to do so. One point of clarification on the ad hocs, I'm not trying to reopen that, other than to say, I'm not here to suggest that this body cannot create ad hoc committees, true ad hocs, not just a name, but just that if it would like to do so, that it consult with us either before or include language when approving an ad hoc that says subject to the approval or discussion with city attorney's office.
Would
I
that
do
be-
not mean to suggest that you put everything on pause today, because I understand that first of all, you are all volunteers and we appreciate you immensely. Second of all, that that you're on a very, I don't have to tell all of you that you're on a tight time schedule. So if it's acceptable to you to include that language in approving ad hocs, then that would be a way to move forward if you would like. Additionally, on any reports, and I understand that you were requesting one, that they be specific, otherwise we won't know exactly what to report back on.
Would those
And-
issues be covered in your report?
Again, I don't know if there's been a vote on a report, but if there is a request for a report that is approved by the majority, what we would ask is that it includes specifics on what you're looking for a report back on, and that similar to any other motion that is formally adopted by this body, it go through, I guess it would be the executive director and assistant executive director who will then send it to our office.
Commissioner Field.
Thank you. I'm really glad that we have a motion to postpone, even though I don't think I'm in favor, because it's opened up really important questions. Thank you, Commissioner Schlageter. I have some similar questions, Chairman Mesa, because I didn't understand and I'd like to understand, and you said it, but I want to be extra clear. In other words, the committees are going to meet on dates that the full commission would have met? And are you foreseeing that all 4 committees will meet in different rooms simultaneously? I don't know that we can staff 4 that meet. What is the plan for these committees to meet? All these basic things are so important around the concern that some of us have about excessive numbers of meetings and, the logistics. So please allow more information. Thank you.
Yeah. I may need to use my phone to get the engagement plan so I could give some precise dates, but let me, we will do a round of study sessions. We still have better government and personnel that we will all do together as a commission. And then we will start our second round of study sessions and deliberations. The first study session in the second round will be planning and infrastructure, because that was the first one that we did in the first round. We're keeping the same sequence. On that day, it will only be the Committee on Infrastructure and Planning that is meeting. No other committee, only that committee.
Okay.
The committees, so that's how it would work on the commission days. So if you are a commissioner that is not on the Planning and Infrastructure Committee, you would not be required, you would not have to attend that meeting unless you chose to as a silent observer, but that would be your choice. I would add, Commissioner Field, that committees may feel or may not feel the need to calendar additional meetings.
And that would be up to the committee itself
That's correct.
and working with staff around scheduling and facilities and cost and all that. Okay, well, thank you. That's super helpful. Okay, thanks.
Yes.
Specifically to that point, for the October 18th, meeting 13, it's a town hall already scheduled, so everyone was planning on being at that. That's focused on planning and infrastructure. Well, that would be, if committees are formed and approved, that would be just a committee meeting. Only the committee members would have, so that would we're looking to lessen some of the load. And I think some of the committees will have additional meetings. The engagement plan is just the floor. Some committees might not be able to have the bandwidth to do additional meetings. Totally get that. But this will allow a little more flexibility for one, to get quorum at some of these things, but it's still do these commission meetings, albeit commission meetings, out in the districts and everything.
Commissioner Yap and then Commissioner Thomas.
Yes, Commissioner Yap here. So Chair Mesa, it was helpful to hear the vision because it sounds as though some of what is the concern raised is that we will not, in fact, have a net increase of meetings if these are considered standing committees. That's what I'm hearing. Now, I would, though, appreciate the formal advice from the city's attorney to understand, just sort of as a level set, what we're deciding on here in terms of ad hoc versus standing. Although I would say the comments from the city attorney currently has made it pretty clear that standing committee would be likely given this description. Is that fair to say what we've heard so far? Okay.
What I can say is that, as a matter of course, there are very few true ad hoc committees. I understand that there are multiple ones that are listed as ad hoc, but they have subjected themselves and they would be subject to the Brown Act. So again, true ad hocs are a little bit different. They are incredibly limited in duration and incredibly limited in scope.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner,
Yes, no, please go ahead.
Commissioner Thomas.
So, and I just want to make sure I understand this. So the meeting on the 18th was supposed to be a full commission meeting, ideally, right? The meeting on the 18th was to be a full commission meeting. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, that
And
is.
so
It is a town
now-
hall study session commission meeting.
So it's a town hall study session.
Yeah.
So if we have committees set up, will that still be the case?
That town hall can transition to a commission town hall.
Okay, so how many, and maybe it's written someplace, but what constitutes a committee? How many people and how does that work?
The city attorney will probably opine as well, but ideally an odd number, at least 3, no more than 5. Yes, there we go. So it's 3 or 5.
Right. So, I mean, the Brown Act doesn't say what you're limited to in terms of the number of members. Obviously, we do highly recommend having an odd number of members just because you would hate for anyone to be deadlocked even. But certainly you would have to keep the numbers on the subcommittee or the committees less than a quorum of this body. Otherwise, you're just having a meeting of this body.
And so my follow-up question is, does, let's say, three members or 5 members, does that offset corruption on our behalf? What impact? Because meaning, because it's what we're meaning that I don't know. I just, for example, if it was 3, I'm just not. I don't know how comfortable I would be with 3 commissioners sitting on a committee collecting. Well, the staff will be there too, so it's not like they're by themselves. And the public will be there, but and public is at all of these meetings and the city council meetings and all these meetings, and they don't pay attention to them. So I just don't know if that's, I understand the Brown Act, but I just don't. I'm nervous about that. I'll say that. I'm nervous about, like, say for example, I found out when I showed up how I actually got here, because I was wondering. I'm like, who selected me? I was wondering. And I assumed that it was my council person, but then I'm like, nah, never in a million years. And so say, for example, I've heard that there are some people, there are appointees. I don't know who anybody is, so I'm just putting it out there. So say, for example, that I was appointed, all 3 of us were appointed, to say, by the same person. That could, in and of itself, influence, and there's only 3 on this committee, that could really influence the way that we approach our work. If someone has, I think by now, you can kind of tell that I don't have an allegiance to any elected official. I don't. That's why I speak freely in the way that I do. And I think that's kind of the role. I think that was the way, that's the reason that you have these different ways in which people come to this commission. And so I'm just kind of concerned that when we start limiting, I don't like meetings either. I work at a university. That's all they do is meet about meetings. But when we start making these meetings small, but we're conducting them in a way that it seems like it's all of us, that's kind of scary to me in terms of the importance of the work that we have to do. it may not be a red flag, but it's at least a yellow one. And so I don't know if that is why you think we need to settle the issue on the ad hoc, because then at least it's kind of temporary and it's specific work that's being done. And I think that's what this conversation is really trying to get at. We do not want to put ourselves in a situation where we are a full commission and ultimately the three people are deciding the direct. I mean, we're already talking about, we want as many people as possible to be able to present. And, the onus is kind of on us and them to determine who we invite, or we make recommendations to you, and that, and so I just think it's a slippery slope, at least, and so I just want to be clear that I'm feeling that way. I'm just, now again, I could be totally incorrect in saying that, but I want to be honest.
Yeah, if I could respond, Commissioner Thomas, I think you hit the nail on the head of this debate. And I know for many of the commissioners, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like Monday evening. But what you are asking is really like the essential part of this discussion. And this is why I oppose the motion, is because ad hoc committees do not require public comment. They do not require the notice of the agenda 72 hours in advance. They don't even require a description of the agenda items. They don't require things that engender public trust and transparency. I'll be the first one to say, and we all feel it every single day, the constraints of the Brown Act. But the Brown Act is there to provide transparency and public trust. And so if those aren't the things that people are trying to accomplish, then what are they? And I've only heard two things. One is the understandable request of wanting to do virtual meetings. I do virtual meetings for work in my life. I get that. But unfortunately, and they'll advise in a confidential memo, they've advised here in public, there are not many options before us to allow virtual meetings because of the Brown Act. So then what is the other reason? The other reason is also, it hasn't been stated, but I mean, just by process of elimination, the only other Brown Act requirements that are not ad hoc are quorum requirements in serial meetings. So what does that mean if we get rid of quorum requirements and serial meetings? The type of slippery slope that you are concerned about. That means that commissioners in a smaller body can talk amongst each other behind closed doors, in email, in text, in phone calls, and make predetermined decisions. What the Brown Act forces us to do is have a public dialogue about these issues, and it forces us to have these decisions be made in public and not us behind closed doors. That's why I'm opposed to the motion, because I don't really see what is trying to be accomplished by having an ad hoc committee other than that.
Even if we're saying though, that we want to adhere to the Brown Act in these ad hoc meetings, but we just want to limit the work, the scope of the work, and the time frame. Is that possible? I mean, is that, or is that one of those things where we say that with our mouths, but then we don't really have to do it because it's an ad hoc committee?
Yeah, I mean, the committees, as you can see, already define the scope of the work. And the other thing, just to hopefully alleviate
I
some
didn't mean scope, I mean length.
length.
Yeah.
I mean, at most they're going to go. I mean, we have a length. We're going to be done with our recommendations by April. The committees, like I said, will probably be done, fully by, at the latest March. So nothing's going to be very long, including this commission. But I will add to one of the other things that you expressed as I forgot the point that I was going to make. So please, Commissioner Stein. And then, okay. Oh, Mike, please.
Oh, thank you. Are that naive to believe that there is not texting going on between some of us or phone calls going on between some of us? So before you get on that big high horse of yours, just remember that that does occur and it is legal under the Brown Act unless we do it serially, which obviously that's prohibited, or we do it in a way to commit some type of violation of the act. But there is nothing wrong with my picking up the phone after this meeting and saying, Ray, I think blah, 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 or you picking up the phone and saying to Michael, I think blah, blah, blah. So I don't want to deceive the public in thinking that there are no conversations and there are no emails and there are no text messages that go on each and every day. So let's bring it back a little bit closer to reality, because that's what our job is, rather than a high speech of things that I don't think any of us adhere to. And I can prove that on some just by showing on my text.
Well, I agree with you, Commissioner Stein. That's why I think the committee should have the quorum rules and the serial meeting rules.
That's right.
Commissioner Lewis.
Okay, try and simplify this in my mind at least. I understand the issues or concerns around public trust, which I agree with 100%. I'm not in favor of any process that would compromise public trust. So that's paramount for me. It sounds like, Chair Mesa, you're proposing a process where we would essentially streamline meetings so that we could essentially merge or consolidate committee meetings or whatever we're going to call them with our commission meetings. I think that's clear. I think the concern about workload is for a volunteer commission. I think those are very legit. Certainly for me personally, that's an issue, something that I'd like to avoid because I want to be fully invested and engaged in this process. It sounds like there is mindfulness of that. To Commissioner Thomas's point around essentially selection criteria for the committees, you bring up a great point, I think, and one that I think we should consider how the committees, assuming we go that route, how they are composed, because for me, that does impact public trust for reasons I think that Commissioner Thomas has laid out. So that's where I am on it. I mean, if we can streamline the committee meetings while not compromising public trust and ensuring that we are trying to manage workload and be as efficient with our time management as possible, whatever that means, I'm in favor of that.
Commissioner Andrades and then Commissioner Field.
Yeah, I think that it's important to mention that the Brown Act precludes the appearance of impropriety. So when we start talking about what my fellow commissioner did, where we have 3 people, where if you text someone on the side, then that does violate the Brown Act. So I would just urge the chair when he makes his committee assignments, lean towards the side of 5, because I don't view this as an issue of should we have a standing committee or an ad hoc committee to increase transparency. I think that the larger between those 2 numbers, the sizes, that would ultimately actually increase the accountability that we have to the public. So I would just encourage the chair to lean towards the size of 5 commissioners when practicable. And I think that would actually solve a lot of the issues that we're talking about as it relates to accountability to our fellow public.
Commissioner Field.
Yeah, speaking to the motion, which actually we have a motion to postpone. I want to speak against it, partly because we are under an incredible timeline. And also because thanks to the motion, we finally understand much better, at least I do, what the vision is for committees and the timing of them and the way they will not add many, many more meetings to all of our lives and to our staff. So again, relating to composition, I would agree with Commissioner Andrades. 5 is ideal, but you've got to have 5 people willing. And we have 4 proposed committees, and that means some of us got to do more than one. And so my question is, if you have already thought it through, Chairman Miss, and perhaps you haven't quite gotten there, but if, for example, today we approve the 4 conceptual, committee titles, is it going to be clear? Are we going to volunteer for committees? Are you going to assign us? Are there limits? I mean, we're going to need some people to do more than one, it seems to me. Even if you do a 3-member, we're cutting it really close. And so who's going to decide who's on which committee? How much is our input? How much is yours or staff recommendation? How will that work?
I will, at the last meeting and again today, I would like to ask all commissioners to send me their preferences or send Justin their preferences so that they can be considered, absolutely. And I appreciate those commissioners who already have. I'm taking the feedback that people are giving right now, especially about the number of commissioners of 5 versus 3. And I've thought about it, but this is changing some of the thinking. And so what I want to do is absolutely get the which committees each commissioner would like to, but also to answer the question directly, the authority for assigning the membership of the committees rests with the chair, but I absolutely want to know what people would like to sit on as well.
And will there be any consequence for those who do not join a committee?
Consequence? I don't think,
Okay.
no.
You're not
I mean,
able to
it
kick
is
anybody.
optional if we want to be on a committee.
Absolutely, 100%.
And suppose you're assigned to a committee that you don't want to be on, and you're not assigned to the committee that you really want to be on. How does that work?
Talk to the chair.
Let's have a conversation. We may not get there.
Okay. And I'm just saying this because some of this stuff is, I mean, I could see, like, we got this letter from the mayor, and she's pretty clear on what she wants to see.
Yeah.
And I would just be concerned. I don't know who's representing the mayor, who was appointed by the mayor. I don't know. So I'm just throwing it out. I don't know who they are, but somebody is. And I would just, and if whatever she is recommending, I don't think I need to beat that horse. I think y'all get it right. Y'all get it right. Is it clear?
Yes.
Is it clear, city attorney? Is it clear?
Yes, Commissioner Thomas, I didn't want to interrupt you earlier, but I did want to clarify. So to the extent that it isn't already clear.
Could you
So
speak a little more
the
into the mic,
commissioners, so if you are on a committee, right, the committee does not have the final say in all of this. The
Right.
committees are there to bring this
all
back for a larger
recommendation.
discussion.
Okay.
So if you're on a committee and you really wanted to be on another committee, you'll still have the opportunity to provide input when it comes back to the full body for its
Gotcha.
consideration.
I feel better.
And the only other thing I was going to say is, as far as ad hoc goes, the only benefit is that they are not open to the public. So if you are not considering that, which I'm not asking or not recommending that the body make a decision on that today, it really should be assessed on a case by case situation. But if the intent is to have ad hoc committee meetings that are open to the public and notice that's compliant with the Brown Act and the ordinance,
Then it's a
then
standing
you're
committee,
not
is what you're
getting
saying.
anything out of it.
Right, okay. I mean, I would not want to have a meeting that the public did not feel like they wanted, I mean, that's not appropriate, I think, for the public not to be able to comment.
There is a motion on the floor. Commissioner Stein, I remember to postpone, but I think there was more to it. Or is it just to postpone?
Just to postpone it. I mean, I could add, if you like, that mine is based upon complying with the Brown Act. It is based upon having public speakers at it. I mean, none of this was nefarious in the sense of trying to get around it. It just seems like a more efficient way. And I respectfully disagree with the city attorney that you can't do this on Zoom. I mean, I believe that maybe I misunderstood, that Mr. Grote told us that Zoom meetings were out of the question.
All right, so there is a motion on the floor that was properly seconded. Is there further discussion on the motion? Okay, so the motion is to postpone. I'm going to call a roll call vote. Commissioner Andrades,
I respect the sentiments of my commissioner, but I'll be voting no.
no. Commissioner Fuentes,
No.
Commissioner Lewis,
No.
Commissioner Mack,
No.
Vice Chair Sanchez,
No.
Commissioner Schladiger,
No.
Commissioner Stein.
Did you say Stein?
Yes, Commissioner
Oh,
Stein.
I'm sorry.
It's
I
a-
thought
it's a-
Martin usually went.
No, Martin did go.
Oh, I didn't hear him. Yes.
Commissioner Thomas,
No.
Commissioner Yap,
No.
Commissioner Mesa votes no. Okay, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the proposed committees.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second that motion.
Second. All right, discussion. I'm sorry, Commissioner Field.
I think it's.
Oh, Commissioner Field, real quick.
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
it's okay.
I'm sorry.
Sorry. I just want to make sure that in voting yes on the 4 committees, that everything that we've explored and understood today is included. That is, that we all get to either volunteer for one or more that interest us or choose not to. That those of us who are not on a committee, I believe, as our representative from City Attorney said, can actually attend as a member of the public with no further deliberative involvement, correct? And that these meetings are not intended to be additions automatically unless the committee chooses to create extra meetings, that they'll be in effect a replacement for some of the full commission. Am I getting correct what we've learned here in the discussion?
Yes, and I would add, and the city attorney is welcome to add to this, is that they would prefer that we not attend at all and listen online. But if we do attend in person, to do it as a silent observer.
Yeah.
Commissioner Thomas.
Thank you.
And I guess when we talk about people coming to present, I think it's important that these committees inform us of who's coming, like clearly. Yeah, and so we clearly understand who's coming, clearly understand their connection. Like if I'm inviting somebody that I want to present, then I want to be able to say I have invited this particular person so that it is clear the connection, and this is why. Because other than just having people come and present, and we don't know what the connection is. We don't know that they're connected to a particular commissioner. And so I think just in the spirit of transparency, if a community member says, I think that this person should, I think we need to say this recommendation for a presenter came from someone who was a community member. I think that is vitally, vitally important, because one of the things that we heard in the meeting at Northridge was that utilizing clergy and faith groups in terms of organizing people to come out, that same thing can be true as it relates to getting people to come in to present. And so I just wanted to make sure that when we really need to know, because even if we, I know they don't want us in the room. No, you don't want us in the room. But I just want to make sure that we're clear that this is a part of it, because if it's not, then I change my vote to yes. I would want to change my vote to yes, but I can't. But I'm just saying that needs to be a part of it. So can we add that to? Can we?
That's just instruction to us, and I'm.
Yeah, the presenters will be agendized on the agendas for the committees. And I would also
But agendize, but also who is recommending them. That's what's important. If it's the mayor's office, if it's the council, if it's one of us, that the most important part is who invited you to come.
We can figure out a process to do that. Any further discussion on the motion? Okay, the motion before us is to approve the proposed committees. I will do a roll call vote.
Oh, quickly, sorry.
Yes, please.
Commissioner Fuentes speaking. These would be the committees as amended,
Correct.
since you made the amendments earlier.
Correct. The committees as amended. Okay. Commissioner Andrades, question?
No, I'm just waiting for you to start.
Okay, all right, I will. All righty, let's do the roll call vote. The motion before us is to approve the proposed committees as amended. Commissioner Andrades.
Yes.
Commissioner Field.
Yes.
Commissioner Fuentes.
Yes.
Commissioner Lewis.
Yes.
Commissioner Mack.
Yes.
Vice Chair Sanchez.
Yes.
Commissioner Schlatter.
Yes.
Commissioner Stein.
Yes.
Commissioner Thomas.
Yes.
Commissioner Yap.
Yes.
Chair Mesa votes yes. Thank you, everyone, for the discussion. Before we conclude the meeting, I do want to ask commissioners and if there are any presentations that they would like to see in the future. And let me tell you what I have noted so far. Well, I have a number of topics that we want the staff to address, but let me just say, let me just open it as, are there any future presentations that commissioners would like to see? Commissioner.
Sorry.
I have two. On the issue of houselessness, I'd like to see a presentation by Pete White and the Los Angeles and LA King. I don't know if you all know who he is. Pete
LA
White.
Can.
LA King.
Mhm.
So I would like to see, I would also, Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I would also like to see a presentation on participatory budgeting. There is a professor from UCLA who has surveyed, I think now over 60,000 people, asking them what would they like to see in the budget. And I think that would be a great presentation. The mayor has seen the presentation. And I think that, and it's difficult because it cuts agencies they suggest that we cut the budget for policing. And we know that elected officials run on the understanding that people are fearful and that there's so much crime. But the truth is that policing is the only agency that gets an increase whenever they ask. And just so y'all know, in true transparency.
Commissioner Thomas, we got participatory budgeting.
Participatory budgeting. Yes, I will connect.
Commissioner Yap.
Yeah, so I think I wanted to confirm what I thought I heard earlier, but we were having some audio challenges that City Fabric will be presenting at our next session. Is that correct?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear who it was, Michael.
Well, City Fabric, which is the consultant doing the outreach,
Oh,
they'll be doing the presentation, I believe.
I'm waiting to get their confirmation because I just invited them because we just got to contract and it's a Friday 4 p.m. meeting. So I don't know if they're able to make it yet. But if not that meeting, they will definitely be present and, give a presentation at that September 6th which is our next meeting. And they'll, at that point, they'll also be, doing a lot of the work and everything, but they'll be able to even give a better presentation at that point. But I can hope that they'll at least come to introduce themselves on Friday. That is my plan.
Okay, thank you.
I'll confirm before, as soon as I know, either way, I'll let the commission know.
Okay. And one other thing is that I remember hearing in public comment today, and this is more for something that we should add to the list overall. A public comment talked about, someone spoke about the splitting of Koreatown and some of, which I know is a redistricting matter, but I think that it would be interesting to help here at some point, perhaps during the government structure piece, on to learn a little bit more about what that impact is or how that affects the community. Thank you.
Are there any other presentations that commissioners would like to see in the future? Commissioner Andrades.
On the point that Commissioner Yap made, I would like that conversation to be led by Professor Christian Gross of USC, and we should invite Professor Natalie Masuka of UCLA, who studied Asian districts in LA County at large and presented on that research recently.
And then Commissioner Andrades, if you have contact information, you could share them with the executive director who may already have it. But anyway, let's do that. I think Commissioner Lewis, were you in the queue?
I was going to say I just reserved the space to give some recommendations at a later time.
You got it.
A few in my head right now. Yep.
This will be a standing item before we close, but also if you get something and you think you're going to forget it, you could send an email to Justin at any time as well.
And I would say that, and I don't have someone right now to present this, but I think that it would be important to have some kind of presentation on how is it that we exist and thrive together as diverse people, giving the kind of environment that we're living in today. And so I am in the College of Ethnic Studies, and so there's a possibility that I could ask some of the professors there, but to really have a presentation on how do we become a whole city where everybody is included. And
Okay. Any closing remarks from commissioners? All right, seeing none. Oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Schlatter.
I have a concern about the Friday meeting, and I'd like to discuss that. I guess, in the same spirit as we've said about our transparency of future meetings, our intent is to be able to get materials in advance. And I recognize, as you've heard me over and over state, that, you know, there's workload issues, and I want to make sure that the staff has the space they need. In terms of preparing for a Friday meeting, today is already 4 days in advance of the Friday meeting. So I want to understand how realistic this Friday is as a meeting, both in terms of the materials that we're getting, and if anybody already has, you know, absence issues, whether we're going to have a quorum problem on a Friday evening. And given that we don't know if one of the key presenters might be able to do it, because I do think that outreach discussion is really critical, if not pre-formulated in our earlier plan. So I'd just like to hear from staff about the possibility of getting the materials in time and open it up for a conversation about, in case anybody's not going to be here. Thanks.
Sure. On the staff report, we're aiming to get the staff report out to everyone on Wednesday. Is the plan. We've got a draft. We're working through it, and hopefully it will be finalized by Wednesday and to everyone and posted on Wednesday. And the reports, again, much like this last one, is just, staff kind of doing the homework of calling all the data that you've already been presented and just arranging it in a different way than maybe your own notes are. So it's nothing terribly new. It's just gathering the information and then presenting it again to help inform your discussion. That's really what the staff report is. But we're still making sure that it is, and plus there were some notes today on format that we want to consider as well. And we hope that every meeting and every iteration that we are improving on the process and listening to you and being attentive to what the commissioners are saying. So we'll take that into our process as well as we prepare it for Wednesday. So hopefully that gives, so we're good to go on that. Or on the staff side, we're ready for Friday meeting. As for the city fabric, that's kind of just the, that's the icing for the meeting. In my hope is that we're able to get them to be there to present. The main focus of the meeting was always going to be the deliberation on these important topics that of government structure, and having this commission have the first time to deliberate on that topic, as opposed to just having the question and answers. I really do hope City Fabric comes and, it gets to at least introduce themselves and the work that they'll be doing. But again, I think it's more of a frosting, more of an additional, nice thing that we'll be able to add to Friday. Hopefully we're able to pull it off. But I don't think, at least it's my opinion that it's not worth postponing your very important deliberation.
Thank you, Justin. I don't want you to diminish the value of the work that you did. This compilation, which has guided our conversation today, is super important. I think the improvements to it will make it even more valuable. But I just want to speak for myself in that, I do want to come to these meetings prepared to be able to contribute, and the time given, that this is in my post-work hours, I need to be able to contribute the time to it. So I am concerned about Friday's meeting being viable. I'm not gonna go to the extent of making a motion about it, but I don't think we want to undercut our conversation about the outreach either. So I might suggest we either have the meeting on Friday and schedule the outreach conversation separately so that we can have a complete conversation. There's been a lot of enthusiasm about that, and keep our Friday conversation very narrowly tailored so that we can hammer that out without impinging on the public's Friday evening, or reschedule it entirely. That is a informal suggestion to the chair to work out with the director rather than a motion. Thank you.
I have Commissioner Stein and then Thomas in the queue.
Okay. I'm just going to piggyback on Martin's comments. A meeting on Friday, I find, is sending the wrong impression. I voted for 4 o'clock meetings. I don't have a problem with meetings at City Hall being at 4 o'clock. But on Friday, when we're trying our very best to send the message, we want people to come and address us in the public comment period. I don't know. I mean, we have a hardcore that comes to every meeting, but that's unfortunately, and not because we don't appreciate the ones that come, but it's sort of the same people over and over, and which is fine. They have a lot to contribute. But I don't know if it sends the message, let's make this as inconvenient as we can for the general public. Let's set it up on Friday at 4 o'clock when people are starting to make their plans for the weekend. People are going out to dinner, they're going to shows, whatever the case may be. And are we sort of, by doing it on a Friday, saying, we really don't want you, and the way we can tell you that we don't really want you, we're going to schedule when it's most inconvenient for you. And I think what's coming up this Friday is one, I'm not a religious Jew. I'm Jewish. I'm proud to be Jewish. But, there are people who might be coming to the meeting, not you, Mr. Weinstein, who actually have to set up for Shabbos. And they're not going to come down here and go against their religious convictions. Many Jewish people have Shabbos at sundown every Friday night. And again, are we discouraging a certain segment of our population from coming down to address us on issues that they think are important? So if this isn't a motion, but I think we're going to have trouble making a quorum on Friday. But putting that aside, I think in terms of respect to the public, we shouldn't be having meetings on Fridays. It could be Thursdays at 4 o'clock, Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays. But I don't think it works on a Friday.
And I'm sorry.
Go for it, Commissioner Thomas. I can put myself in the queue.
Because like, it is problematic for me. I have a class at 4:20 on Mondays and Wednesdays, and I have talked with my chair about that. So it will, luckily it's a government course. So, so I've been trying to think, how is it that I can, I attempted to get that class changed. It's too late to be able to do that, to be able to swap it out. That's what I had hoped to have done. But I don't think that that's necessarily going to happen. And I certainly want to be here, especially for the outreach conversation. So I don't know what that means. I'm thinking in my mind, maybe I could say to them that this would be the first class. Maybe I could say to them, tune in, and, tune in, and you have to give public comment. I don't know, but but it is 4:00 is not, now if it was on Tuesday or Thursday, I'm good.
Which days are your 4 o'clock?
Mondays and, oh, it's Friday. I don't think it's Friday.
So you're
I
good.
may be okay.
Okay.
I think it's Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
So this is
Mondays and Wednesdays especially. I think Friday. I gotta check.
what I would, this is what I would say to the commissioners. Is that I think to be fair to all of us, we did all, it was the full commission about a month ago, have the opportunity to review the engagement plan, which included the calendar of meetings. And it was some of the concerns that have been raised today about Friday meetings were not expressed at that time. However, that doesn't mean that they can't be expressed now. But what it does mean is that I can put on the next agenda an item on whether or not we want to have Friday meetings moving forward. But in the interest of this meeting that was, on the calendar, literally probably more than a month ago, has been agendized to the public. I would like to move forward with Commissioner Schlattger's recommendation of keeping it narrowly focused on the deliberation that we have scheduled, and to put the outreach discussion on the following agenda.
I think that works.
Thank you, sir.
All right, are there any additional closing remarks?
Very cold in this room.
Seeing none, I will entertain a
And there's
motion
no
to
coffee back
a motion to adjourn. Is
So moved.
second? Okay, without objection, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. But where's the coffee? We were told there was coffee.